Down.
Hey guys, so welcome to we did a vote, didn't we? As you guys know, from 2 weeks ago now, the vote got extended, as it were. We had Suris on, we did the fundraiser, which, by the way, Suris is going to get his money probably tomorrow, even though I'm not supposed to get paid for it until the end of next month. Jen and I decided to give him his money
I have to
a little bit
figure out
early.
my StreamYard shit. Jesus Christ, my AdSense shit, because apparently I have enough to cash out.
Yeah, you have to. They have to do the confirmation thing, but that's back end stuff aside. Suris is going to be getting his money fairly soon because we decided to give it off of this payout because it's actually a little larger than expected because y'all were so freaking generous with the Platonism wine rant. But there was a vote, and I'm sorry for all y'all Xenia Root voters. We had to count every vote, and it was a 100
Shut up, Donald. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up, Joe. Shut up, Joe.
We had to, for the sake of democracy, we had to count every vote, and it was a landslide in favor of the Xenia Coalition. So, I've got the channel artist working on getting the logo changed. Oh, thank you so much, Carbuncle. The super chat, wish it could be more. Thank you so much. $5, it really helps support the channel, which we're going to remind everybody at the beginning of the channel. We're going to be doing a history stream, and Bill, actually, if you guys watch Suris's channel, if you're a fan of his.
Also, side note, super chats tonight. Your question will be bumped to the top of the queue. As soon as your super chat comes in, as soon as we finish our thought, your question will be next ahead of everyone else's. So if you guys would like to contribute, we are super appreciative of that. And there's a little incentives. Right
yeah,
there.
And we are going to be responding to the chat tonight, but as Jen said, we've got a lot to cover. We're going to be talking about a number of different empires, from Greece to Rome to Britain, and you were worried somebody was going to notice, and now everybody knows.
Speaking of empires,
now you're the one pointing it out to everybody.
Hold up. Speaking of empires, peep this shit, right? Y'all remember?
I don't know if there's anybody who's not looking in that direction.
Okay, so remember like back in the day when the USSR was a thing and that empire was a thing? This is like, it's like shaped like the purple blob, and then it's like Crimea.
Y'all, you have to like super full screen and like move your face in to even see what she's talking about.
It's like it's like the big purple blob that used to be the USSR, like, and then it's like haha Crimea.
Blob.
It's like
even that big of a deal.
So what I was trying to get to,
fucking shit now.
I am already like having to wrangle Jen.
I just found that interesting. It like flashed me back to the 1980s public school maps.
What's the 1980s? I wasn't there.
That's
off. Fake.
Fuck
that didn't
off.
exist.
Yeah, it's as real as Australia.
It's a Democrat hoax.
It would help where's Nervardia so we can like yell at the shill.
Where is Nervardia?
But so what I was trying to say was, if you guys are familiar with Suris's channel, if you're in his audience, Bill actually came on not too long ago to kind of talk about a bit of U.S. history, actually, a lot of kind of unknown U.S. history. And so that's actually part of the reason why we ended up inviting him on here, because we wanted to talk about world history and the way that the U.S. empire is kind of shaping up to make a lot of the same mistakes as some of the other ones we've seen fall in recent millennia. So
I actually have a very scary thing that I realized today about that. So
that's going to be fun. So prepare your existential dread. But Bill, would you like to give yourself a quick introduction? Because I know you're actually real life friends with Suris, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, I met him back in high school. He was a senior when I was a freshman, and which was kind of fun. We ended up having a PE class together, but neither of us actually did PE. He would bring his computer in and his Wii, and we would end up playing Wii games in the back of the gym. The PE teacher just let us, or he and I would duel on like Command and Conquer and stuff. So but after he graduated, I kept up a little bit with him. Even after he moved to Georgia, I went up there a couple of times. I've known a couple of girlfriends he's had since he moved up there, and I even lived in Georgia for a little while with my aunt. Who was
I'm going to Georgia eventually.
What part of Georgia?
Atlanta.
Okay, so you'll be right in that area.
Suburbs. Yeah.
The Atlanta suburbs are the good part. It's
the Atlanta suburbs have the better schools, but I don't know if I can afford The Atlanta suburbs is the issue.
What is terrifying is walking through the middle of, like, not downtown, but outer downtown Atlanta at like 2 a.m.
Honey, I'm a New Yorker. 2 a.m. is not fucking terrifying.
Okay.
The only place 2 a.m. would terrify me is like Sarajevo.
Okay.
That's
there was like nobody out there, but like 2 or 3 people, which I know in New York that's it's got to be a lot more than that. But you're just like sketched out about everybody around you because it's like there's just a couple of people around here.
Nah. The only city I'm worried about at like 2 a.m. is like somewhere in India by myself. Like that's it. And if I'm strapped, then it's not a problem.
That's racist.
It's not racist. It's a literal. Here we fucking go.
No, I'm joking, obviously.
Wait, Joan, my kid has not seen the Christmas tree yet. We have not put it up, so therefore I don't know if I'm going to yeet a Christmas tree through Ocean's window.
Is it a Christmas tree though? If it's in an atheist household.
All right, so my kid comes across this fucking video of Ocean, and I think it was Telltale. I think it was Owen. Where they were
I think it was Telltale, because Telltale was like the pagan origins of Christmas. And
right, yeah, it was
like,
that
I'm
video.
not actually sure.
It was that video, and Ocean had said something like Christmas trees were bullshit, and my kid comes downstairs and he's like, Mom, the Christmas tree, it's bogus. And I was like, so that motherfucking tree.
Oh, Ikeda Hakubi, $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Ikeda. Welcome to the first ever Xenia Coalition, everyone.
So that tree. Last Christmas, I go to pull out the old tree. Had a fight to get it up from the basement. I'm already at it.
You know, even if that Christmas tree is bogus, Freya has a good point, though. We do have Suris' friend on. It is definitely a sandwich.
It is a sandwich. I go to plug the fucking tree in, and half the fucking lights are out. Mind you, it's the day before Christmas Eve. So I literally kicked the fucking thing across the living room, went to Walmart, dealt with that crowd to get another fucking tree, which is now the current tree. So my kid comes downstairs and tells me the fucking tree is bogus. I will yeet that shit through fucking Ocean's window, and he knows this.
This is a long running joke.
He knows it.
So you actually proposed the topic tonight, Jen. I might have invited the guest, but you proposed the topic tonight.
I did.
So would you like to talk about a little bit about what we're going to be talking about, and kind of transition into which of the empires you want to start with?
Jesus fuck, where are we going to start? Okay, so why not get lights to put on the tree? Because it's pre-lit.
I still need to get a tree. Like,
I have
Christmas
to. I have a
is
kid.
It's the only holiday that I actually like care about. And now that I'm a homeowner, like I could do so much around my house for Christmas and make it look so cool.
Fuck that. I'm throwing this fucking bogus ass tree up. I'm throwing the fucking gift. If I ever find the fucking Xbox, if I ever find that shit, I'm putting it under the fucking tree. I'm gonna sit there grumpy as fuck with my coffee, like, just open your shit. Just open your fucking shit. And let's just get this motherfucking year over with. Okay? We've got one other holiday after this. Open the fucking gifts and let's go. Come on. Let's go. 2021. Let's go. We gotta go.
It's so much fun seeing this from a mom's perspective, because I was the kid that would be like, oh my god, Mom, wake up at 6 a.m. Let's go open our presents.
Not this one. He'll get up at fucking noon and be like, okay, I'm ready to open them now. Noon. He's like, I'm ready to open them. Noon. I don't give a fuck.
At how old is he?
9.
Noon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I have that kid.
So we are now 10 minutes in. That's about the average for a new guest.
I have that kid.
Topic.
So, fuck, I blanked. I'm sorry.
Okay, introduce the topic and whichever empire you want to start talking about first.
Fuck, now my...
I promise I won't do that too much.
Oh my god, I'm gonna quit today. I'm quitting.
Press F to pay respects for Jen. Jen broke.
My tits are leaking. My mic is dropping.
Oh,
I can't find the fucking Xbox.
Hey guys, so we got a hell of a super chat.
Oh, wow.
$50 super chat. Thank you so much, Variance. Variance is actually a very active member of our Discord. Link in the description if you guys aren't already there.
A very active member of my channel as well. Cassandra, yes, it's an Xbox Series S.
So, I'm gonna do my best. So, slams into the chat from a drop pod. What up, you fricks? It's a salty gremlin from the ocean. Throws a handful of gold at you guys, praises coalition, and eats a random Richie. Have fun with history. I've got to go to work, but I'm listening in. Thank you so much for that incredibly generous super chat variance. That is huge. It's a big deal. I'm incredibly grateful, and so is Jen. Thank you. Like, that's
Excuse me.
That is beyond anything that we could have hoped for.
I don't even profit from it, but that's awesome. You guys are great.
Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Like,
okay,
literally, you can ask Jen this. With the amount of research material I have to buy, my half of every dollar that you spend here literally goes straight back into my videos.
And
like,
my half will be going towards an Xbox for this fucking 9-year-old that I have to fight with it over. I want to play Sonic. Fuck you, Assassin's Creed is on. You better learn your fucking history, bitch. Sit the fuck down.
And watch it be some really bad Sonic game that comes out and not anything that's actually good, but like one of those really weak ones.
No,
okay,
it's
every other Sonic game. You have to learn this the hard way.
He wants the new Tetris, and he's fucking terrible at it, which drives my OCD.
Tetris?
He loves Tetris, but he's terrible. So he's fucking putting shit everywhere. My OCD is driving me fucking insane. I'm just like,
please press F to pay. Please press F to pay respects for my sanity chat. We are now 11 minutes in.
All right.
Introduce the topic.
So wait, first off, wait, there was a comment. God.
Oh my.
Okay, so I'm gonna introduce the topic, and then I have a Christmas tree story for water.
Oh my god.
Hey,
the topic
should I just retitle the stream like F Christmas signed Jen?
Yeah.
Like, is that what we're doing?
Seriously. Hey,
Just
and I've
fuck
got all
Christmas.
night, so
You know why? You know why I'm mad that I can't celebrate Yule? Because my neighborhood would not let me light a wheel on fire. I cannot properly celebrate Yule because they will not let me light a wheel on fire and roll it down the block. Technically, it's a fire hazard. I need a permit.
CJ, I do not know. I don't know. Like, I have ADHD too, and I am trying so hard right now.
Okay, so what we're gonna do here tonight, right? There is no doubt that the United States is an empire and has been for quite a long time.
Do you want to give a quick definition? Because there apparently was a little bit of pushback on Twitter about that.
Okay, so yeah, we get, power, and yes, the United States can be argued now, but at one point in time, it absolutely was a superpower. It by all means,
right?
Are you taking pictures of the screen right now? My water tip?
No,
what are you doing?
Like, no. Hold on. Let me pull up the camera actually, and I'll show you exactly what I can see. So no.
So
like I told you, in this view, I couldn't even see the stains. Like, that's why I was
so
like, what are you
longtime
talking
viewers,
about?
all aboard the train
Also,
to Mamryland.
asexual.
We are well
Don't
on
care.
our way.
So, yes, we had some, United States could be a power, can it really be an empire? And to me, the biggest marker is the influence, the biggest markers, the influence on the world economy, and the fact that we have territories. We have conquered other lands. And we can say this even outside of...
Puerto Rico, like the
right,
horrible
we
things
can
that
even
happened
say
in
this.
Hawaii.
I mean, it started within the contingent states. It did start within the contingent states. We very, the manifest destiny, yada, 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 yada. It then went on to Puerto Rico, Guam, the Mariana Islands, and the American Samoa Islands, as well as we can also include Hawaii, which was its own country, and Alaska, which I believe was part of Canada. I may be fucking up that one, but...
Alaska was part
either
of... But
Russia.
Alaska was... I thought that Alaska was French and they sold it to us.
Something like that. We're taking
I'm
other
gonna go.
shit
Okay,
from other
furious
countries.
googling. I'm about to go. I'm about to go mute for about 30 seconds and go figure out how
Yeah,
Alaska
because that's
happened.
when I was. Because it's like, who the fuck pays attention to Alaska?
I want to say it was pre-Soviet Russia that gave us Alaska, like under either
it wasn't Canada.
Tsar Nicholas or before
Something
the
like
1900s.
that. But we are. Alaska was part of Russia. Yeah, like I always fuck. Because who the fuck thinks about Alaska? Besides, if you're on the
exactly.
fucking run.
Yeah.
Like,
You
thinks
are
on the other
correct.
thing, like-
Alaska was purchased from the Russian Empire, transferred to the United States on October 18th of 1867.
And this is something that we've
from
commonly
the
seen
Romans.
with. We saw.
It was in the aftermath of the Crimean War, funnily enough, with all the
Yes.
jokes you made earlier.
One of Crimean Wars.
We're representing. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I think there was one like last week. Like there may have been one like last week. We don't know. But we effectively either conquered or financially maneuvered ourselves to obtain territories. That's one thing. But, fuck, India's obtained territories. But the scale of the economic impact that we have on the world, if our economy fails, the world fails. And this was reminiscent of the Roman Empire, where the Roman Empire had become the world center of trade, the world center of economy. And when that fell, the countries surrounding it and the countries that were dependent on it also had an extremely hard time when they were at war, when their trade routes were blocked.
Well, we just had two super chats
come in.
So
Yes,
Lisa for Truth, $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank goodness Trump will soon be out. Decided to drop it here because I don't talk politics on my channel. Thank you so much, Lisa. And Variance, again, you are being so dang generous tonight. Part of the military doctrine is to project power out and beyond the bounds of the continental U.S. Part of that is maintaining presence in our territories.
Yes.
First off, thank you so much. And second, astute observation, actually.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, we will get
real
into
quick,
that.
The Christmas story for Water. Water had mentioned that they had natural trees around, so they were able to cut this down. The 1 year, I have not had a real tree since I moved out of my parents' house, so 15?
I mean, it's not
years?
worth all the mess.
Except once.
Oh, and then having to get
Except
rid of the whole thing after
once.
it's like, starting to
One.
rot.
I had it one time. I was dating a guy in the military, and they had this free trees for troops program, and he wanted a real tree, and he wasn't going home, and blah, 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 blah. So he brings this fucking tree in my house, right? Puts it up in the fucking stand to air it out. And I'm like, we're forgetting to do something. Because I had real trees my entire life. And once I was an adult, I was like, fuck you. My parents were the ones with that shitty 1980s brown extension cord that was probably not UL certified. That's like, get under there and water the tree. Like, they sent me. So I'm like, you know what? Not reliving this fucking trauma. Fuck off. I'm not reliving this.
We
fear.
all
Okay,
know
Jen,
that extension
there are
cord.
4 reasons currently living into your house as to why you never want a real tree. Let's be real.
Yeah, dragons. Oh no, fuck that. They love the plastic one too. So I'm like, we're missing something.
Yeah,
like,
but how much worse is it if it's if you have to clean up needles after they knock it down? Like, it's so much worse.
They chew the fucking needles off the plastic tree and then go shit out plastic needles.
Yeah, but they could get poisoning if it were a real tree.
Really?
Yep,
Well, fuck
pine
it,
trees,
we do it
like,
anymore.
they actually can get sick if they eat.
So
it happened to one of my cats.
I'm sitting there looking at this fucking tree and I'm like, we're forgetting to do something. Come to find out, we had to cut the bottom. You have to cut the bottom of the trunk off.
Yep.
I don't own a fucking axe. Neither did he. I don't own a saw either. Well, not at that time. I didn't own a saw.
Neither of
He
y'all were in
shows-
the Boy Scouts.
I'm from fucking New York City. You know what I lived in a concrete jungle. I didn't need a fucking saw unless I was dealing with the Italians. Okay? Like, we didn't deal with that.
Italians!
We didn't deal with that. So this
So Bill is discovering
I broke Bill.
Please press F to pay respects for Bill.
I broke Bill. So this fucking brain dead idiot that I'm fucking dating brings this tiny little it had to be fucking, it was smaller than my phone, and a hammer, and he's sitting in my dining room with the fucking Christmas tree on the dining room table, slowly with this tiny little pickaxe and a fucking hammer, just banging on the fucking tree on the dining room table for over an hour to get the bottom of the fucking
At
tree.
least get one of those like Leatherman multi-tools where you have that little saw on it and you can just kind of like slice at it.
An axe and a hammer. And it wasn't like, it was like tiny. I was like, is that a toy? What the fuck is that? He just,
Why do you have this? What possible?
I don't
utility
even know
does this
where
have?
he got it. I was just like, you probably stole that from the arms room, didn't you? Okay. And he's just sitting there for over an hour just chipping at this fucking tree. And I'm like, please, you're putting that in the fucking stand because this shit was like jagged and fucking sharp. I was like, I'm not fucking dying for your dumbass shit. Krista, you and fucking reading Christopher Hitchens like the Bible clearly didn't fucking tell you about goddamn Christmas trees. Did it? What does Richard Dawkins have to say about it, huh? Did he teach you that? Oh, that was a fight.
Please press F to pay respects for Jen's sanity. All right, so we have now fallen off of the Christmas tree and down the cliff. We visited Memoryland. All of the distractions that officially have to happen every show have happened.
Are you sure?
The ones that are required to happen have happened. We have not yet taken the other train yet. I'm hoping we don't. There are a bunch of in-jokes on this show. Welcome to the chaos. I warned you, or at least I tried to. There is nothing that can prepare you for the Coalition, formerly the Bridge, other than showing up or watching one. And even if you watch one, you don't know what's going to happen when you're here.
Hey, that's fine. I love improv.
But then that fucking piece of shit, that
Case in point.
motherfucker goes to fucking airborne school right after the fucking New Year, leaves this fucking tree in my house by my fucking self, and then I busted
Where
him
are
fucking
F-bomb counters? Where are they all tonight?
And then, while he's at airborne school, I busted him lying to me about everything in his life. Where? On Reddit! So now I'm stuck with this fucking jagged fucking Alanis Morissette tree in my fucking living room that I have to very slowly drag out from my front fucking door, across the fucking front yard, out to the goddamn fucking shit where
Jen,
the fucking trash is.
Read this comment, calm down, laugh a minute, and we are going to come to the topic. So there's a bunch of everything in the chat right now. Jen is broken. Jen, take a breath.
I don't do well around this time of year. Like, I'm just like,
Look, tomorrow night you can grab the wine that you couldn't have tonight and just like listen into me being mad because I'm going to be doing the thing.
I got a fucking 9-year-old sleeping here tomorrow night that's going to want to watch nothing but fucking Ryan's World. And
this is what a phone is for. Phones and headphones are your friend.
No, I'm going to play Assassin's Creed and kill a shitload of Romans while he sits here in the fucking dark. That's what I'm going to fucking do. He's going to sit here with his fucking YouTube taking over my bedroom, and I'm going to go kill a fucking million Romans in my living room.
Goose fraba.
I don't deal well with this time.
For any of you who actually got that reference, please give me an H in the chat. If you're too young, just make me feel old. So Jen, you talked about killing a bunch of Romans. Let's start with the Roman Empire and some of your observations and the scary one you had, because that's a good transition for once.
I'm going to tell you guys now. I'm still picking. The Roman Empire is one of the last ones for me to tackle because it's overwhelming for me. It's like, oh wait, it fell once, was built back, and fell again.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Fuck off. So, now, if we do look at Rome...
Nobody asked you, Jack and Quill.
Fuck you, Jack. I am Jen Aldrich, the Great Slayer of Romans. That game is so difficult that I am, at that point.
Jen, no, you're talking about the real Roman Empire, not the one on the screen.
I'll do that shit, too. Fuck them. I'll fucking slaughter that shit, too. So I may get it crossed here, but... Rome did, through conquest, conquer other lands, and then proceeded to instill a series of senators, a series of, what was the other ones called? Governors. Thank you. I was like, what's that fucking other one that we have? Which very much can be similar to,
Okay, so I don't feel completely old. We got a few H's in the chat.
Which could be and yes, Gaius, I'm going to get to that here in a second. Which could be mirrored to our own government, is, well, now look at us. We have a bunch of little territories that we all decided to come across and, take from people, and they each have their own senators, and they have governors. And
Jack, if you draw that tonight, I will post it. I will show it on the show. If you give us fan art, it will be shown.
Scary thing is, the lead in Assassin's Creed, you can play as a woman, looks like me with long hair. This just makes the experience all the more.
Okay, so I'm getting it to confuse people. The reference I made was to a movie called Anger Management.
Mm-hmm. So, and you could compare it to the United States, where, we started off as these colonies that we took from the First Nations, and then proceeded to buy, conquer, fight our way west.
I mean, we also are a scare quotes democracy that happens to actually mostly be just an oligarchy, which is, the conflict between the rich and poor
Which
had a
exactly
lot to
what
do
Rome
with the
was.
problems in Rome, especially like when
Right.
austerity and stuff started getting applied. So, do you want to talk a little bit about the bread dole and kind of where that whole thing?
Yeah. So something else I noticed, there is a.
I know enough to ask questions.
there is a there is a saying, "Panem circenses," which is Roman, and it means bread and circuses. And I think Machiavelli, I forgot the full quote, but I believe it's from Machiavelli. And he stated that as long as you keep the crowds entertained and fed, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, the whole thing, bread and circus,
Whatever.
is like as long as people are not starving and as long as they're not bored, they won't.
Yeah,
be bored.
if as long as you keep them fed and keep them mindlessly entertained, they're fine to not turn an eye to the government.
You see,
And
what the
question.
funny thing is here today, they're not fed, and
However,
they don't have any
however,
escapism because nobody has weed. So,
however,
Okay,
you can
so
argue.
that quote was from a Roman poet,
It was I for some reason I think
Juvenal in the 2nd century CE.
I think
Yes.
it's Haven.
Panem et circenses.
I think it's pronounced. I think the J is pronounced maybe with like an H.
I don't remember my Latin.
Yes,
or like a
Carbuncle.
Y,
We
or like
are
a
a
Y
constitutional republic and all, but it's. I'll get into that a little bit later.
That's why I said
Yeah, that's
That's
later.
why I said scare quotes democracy, because
Yeah.
everybody talks about democracy, but we're not unless you live in a state that lets you vote directly on laws.
Right, and you could tell the difference between a democracy and a constitutional republic, and this is the difference between the United States and Rome, to where the elite, the majority elite, made the rules and made the laws for Rome, to where that a constitutional republic is actually supposed to negate that. The constitutional republic is to take the voice of the constituents. This is what they're supposed to do. It no longer happens. The voice of the constituents of people vote. They vote people in. You're supposed to speak for the people that voted for you. This
Right.
saves the majority overruling the minority. Because say we have a majority of Republicans, it's not just Republicans making the laws. You have areas, you have states that are democratic. Therefore, it's a balance of power. However, a democracy only takes the majority into play. There is no such thing as your constituents.
Gaius, that was not a pun. It was very close to being a reference, but it's not a reference either. It's very, very close to the, we are at war with East Asia. We are not at war with East Asia. We have never been at war with East Asia.
Can I jump in on
We
the
haven't?
representative democracy part?
Hold on, we
That's-
haven't been at war with East Asia?
No, it's a reference to the freaking what's the name of the goddamn book? I'm trying to remember. That Big Brother, 1984. It's a reference to.
But I was gonna
1984.
say,
we are at war with East Asia. We are not at war at East Asia. We've
Okay,
never
I
been at
was
war
like,
with East Asia. We are at We've always been at war.
Afghanistan's looking a little east. Wait, fuck. Wait,
Yeah, no,
I'm-
that's.
no,
It
that's
looks like it's framed in the same way as that quote from 1984,
Wait,
but it's
I'm-
not that. It's not.
Hold
in
on,
that.
wait. Is China East Asia or West Asia? I can't think of a compass right now.
China's East Asia.
Okay, so
China
yeah,
is about as far east as you can go.
Look,
in
we've
Asia.
been at war with
Technically,
Asia, and
if
that's
you're
what's
looking
fucking.
at the
That's it. Okay,
I mean, technically,
We're
Taiwan
the far
is.
west.
Yeah,
China's
yeah.
the far east.
Yeah.
But
Except
that's
for
also
like
arbitrary.
Far East.
yeah,
this is-
exactly.
fuck.
It's
Okay,
arbitrary.
Yeah. Now, Panem circenses. We haven't been doing that with Trump. Trump is not keeping us fed, although he, to some, can be called entertaining. And what happened? The people turned an eye to the government. Big time.
Well, yeah, when
Our
they started
election.
slashing the bread dole.
Right. Now, however, Biden is, and granted it's absolutely needed, but Biden is proposing stimulus plans. He's promoting expansions to SNAP benefits, WIC benefits, stuff like that during COVID. And he's also trying to propose keeping the movie industry open.
He's also talking about universal health care and stuff like that, which is an modern equivalent of the bread dole as well, because like medical care is so freaking essential in the modern day.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead,
So
Bill.
I've got a few things, if you don't mind if I jump in a little bit here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, why would we mind? You're the
Um,
guest. You're supposed to be at least partially the star of the show. But we both ramble, so
Oh.
apologies.
So what we've been dealing with, and this is really something that's been happening since just after FDR. When we had FDR, he got elected 4 times in a row. was it 5 before he died?
It was, I think it was 4, and he was just like,
4.
I'm not going to run again. Like, he was the one who was like,
no, he died in the middle of his term. His last term, FDR died, because that's how Truman became president during the end of World War II. Because it was Truman who dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But anyway, FDR brought us back from the Great Depression.
FDR won 4.
Programs.
It was 4.
Yeah, it was 4. That's what I thought.
It was 4.
So the New Deal, which he didn't get to pass everything in the New Deal that he wanted to. He got
Didn't he also have like a workers' bill of rights that he wanted to do also that he never got around to?
There was a whole lot of shit that he wanted to do.
Universal basic income came up in that too. And later on, universal basic income came up with MLK. But, you know, post FDR, the stuff that he actually did get to pass, like a livable minimum wage, started to get undercut and undercut and undercut. And this really started around the Nixon administration, but as we all can probably guess, it was really when the Reagan administration started that the gap just... So aggressive deregulation has been demonstrably detrimental to our society. Because they trained these people, regulations are bad. Regulation is bad. But they don't know what regulations are bad, and they can't really articulate what it is.
This comes from...
Blood for the red line.
How can I explain this? This comes from corporations running the country, is what it comes from. The more regulations you have, the harder it is for them to cut corners, to maximize profit, to do shit like that. To abuse
their workers.
Right, to abuse the workers. So what they do is, say the workers are like, hey, we should be getting paid more for this. And they go to their higher up. And their higher up is like, well, you know, with this regulation and this whatever that we have to follow, we have to spend more money to make sure, and this is why we can't afford a raise. So this is how it kind of trickles down.
Well, this is one of these shows I want to cover, freaking worker co-ops and why they're so much more stable than the corporate model.
This is how it
This is how it runs in a corporate model where profits are the primary.
So when that happens, you have people like the Walton family, who runs Walmart,
and they make $5 million-ish, $4 to $5 million a day each.
You have Jeff Bezos, who puts this out from the top, because it's not just the bottom line workers that are asking for raises. It's these at the higher top too, and you know they kind of get the same excuse down and down and down. You then have them putting money towards politicians who say, hey, push this for me, I'll keep funding you. And the
Here, Mitch McConnell, take my money.
Here, Mitch the Lich, you
dollar,
fucking
dollar
rotting
bill,
I swear, I think there's a corporation out there that's keeping Mitch McConnell alive, and it's Republican. Like,
they're just constantly pumping him full of Regeneron.
Yeah, there's some pharmaceutical company out there that's giving way more than just fucking money to Mitch McConnell. So but the way that they get people to vote for them is they keep hearing this down the line. So then they blame these policies. Well, I can't get a raise and I can't feed my family because of this policy. And this is how they get people to vote for these candidates that they're funding.
Well,
because
I mean,
they blame the Democrats.
But it's not even just that, though. Like, if we want to get too deep into American politics, which actually does kind of come back to populists and the rise of populism in Rome, there's another side, too, which is single-issue voting, and you kind of got something very, very similar with the sort of hostile takeover when Caesar started kind of putting his people everywhere.
Right.
With the single issue being the wars, and his single-issue thing was the wars and the conquest that he did, and the fact they became so powerful during that time when he was granted that power. But like with modern American politics, you get people who vote because that party wants to kill babies, so I'm not going to vote for anybody.
Right, and this is the beginning. This was one of the big markers for me on the beginning of the downfall, and this happened in Rome, like you said, with Caesar. Caesar started making government too big. Many leaders in Rome started making government too big. They started making it too complicated. They started expanding it too much to where the common person could not understand every single aspect of law. So they picked these very singular...
Well, what he also did was he strategically replaced people who retired with people that were on his side, which is something that the Republicans are doing right now.
Right, but...
I wonder what that sounds like the last 4 years.
Oh, the Democrats do that shit too. But
Well, yeah, sometimes.
they
It
overcomplicate
depends
government,
on.
and this started happening towards the end with Rome. They
Yeah.
overcomplicate government to where it makes the regular person, it makes it too hard for them to understand. So they follow 2 or 3 policies that they're able to understand, that they feel very passionately about, and only follow through that. And this is where
Oh, Suris joined us.
hi sir.
Hey,
So this
Chris.
one line voting is actually the marker of a falling empire, because people
Yeah.
are now unaware of what their government is doing. People are unaware of all the laws that they need to be following, the ones that are important, because it overcomplicates it.
Well, that's
This has
actually
happened
part of
with
the reason
Rome.
we invited
This
Suris on
happened
when we.
with the British Empire. This happened both with Rome and the British Empire. Those which both, I mean, Rome, you can argue, fell apart with conquest, fell apart with wars, but the British Empire did not. And what led to their falling apart to their territories was people were starting to wake up to a one-line voting issue, that they didn't want to be ruled by the British Empire anymore. And
And
this
that really
became their
started with
one-line issue.
America. It's like, America said, all right, we're going to secede from the empire because taxation
Because we're
without
not,
representation,
which is
right?
stupid, because like it's more like, hey, we want to bootleg our fucking tea and like make enough money on it, because that's where a lot of money was coming in at the time. I want to
Yeah.
take one quick break, like for a breath, and thank Variance for another super chat, which I've had up on the screen, and I want to let Jen finish her thought. Glass-Steagall laws unleashed the barely contained frickery of modern economics, and yeah,
Fuck Glass-Steagall. Like,
I mean, Glass-Steagall alongside, what was the other one?
the too big to fail one?
No, not the too big to fail one. The super PAC one.
Citizens United.
Citizens United. Citizens
Yeah.
United is the other one that unleashed like political frickery on America, because now they can donate however much they want.
And it doesn't matter, and it can be dark money, and yeah, that was a whole big thing. And the sad part was, and I mean, it's the miracle that we have of an actual separation of church and state, or not church and, I'm sorry, separation of powers between the government. We'll get to church and state later. So we've got the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive. So the judiciary doesn't have to do everything that the executive wants. So Obama can say, well, this is bad, but the Supreme Court can go,
Chili.
well,
Oh,
this is,
broccoli. I always forget about broccoli.
this is constitutional. And it's like, okay, well, now it's up to the legislature to fix this. What we have right now, and hopefully we're about to be coming out of, I really appreciate that President-elect Biden has been pushing this unity platform to the point where he's actually trying to build a bipartisan coalition.
I don't think it's going to work.
In his government. Oh, it can.
I don't think it's going to work on a countrywide scale.
It's not going to work on the Trumpism voters, but
There's a lot of
Congress,
disenfranchised Republicans right now who might be willing to hear a moderate voice.
But it's not the disenfranchised Republicans, it's the disenfranchised left, which is far more common than disenfranchised Republicans.
This is
I'm
true.
a disenfranchised left. I was a
am I.
Bernie Sanders supporter.
Same.
But
Hi, I'm a freaking commie. Nice to meet you.
But I think and again, they tried this with Rome. They tried this unification with Rome, and I think we, and I'm not saying individual people, but we as a society are now too ingrained in bipartisan politics. We are too ingrained in single issue voting, and we are too ingrained in party loyalty to truly bagel cat.
So we're also far enough from the
seriously.
start that since we're talking about populism, I'll let you finish your thought, Bill, but I wanted to transition from here to the right, because
but
talking
I
about
think-
populism, you have to bring up Hitler.
I think
Of
as
course.
long as we keep the two-party system, it's going to continue to be that way. I think the only way to truly unify the country is to absolutely eliminate the two-party system and actually have people start to have to actually eliminate the party system altogether, and have people actually start to research topics, research policy, research laws, and realize, hey, some things that I agree with as a former Republican, former Democrats believe in. But I think as long as we have this party line bullshit, and as long as we have the party system, there is no way we're going to unify this country. None.
So
This
the
is a
thing
very
about
accurate
that
statement by the chat.
it's it's kind of funny because you can walk up to the most Trumpist Trump person and say, give him all of these things about the Affordable Care Act without saying Obamacare, but say, how do you feel about this policy and this policy and this policy and this policy? Oh, that sounds great. It's Obamacare. Oh no, Obama.
So this is part of American individualism. And the reason why people take to politics in the way that they do and align with a certain party is because for a very long time in American culture, Americans very much felt like it was America against the world. And this was what was ingrained in us. This is exactly
Cold War?
It's no, before the Cold War. This is what was ingrained in us from our revolution, to where we don't talk about France very much. We really don't.
Or the fact that France basically won the war for us.
Right. We really don't. And the way that it's taught to us is,
and by us, I mean the empire that currently rules over my people.
Right. From what it's taught, 77 men grabbed up guns and took on the fight of Concord, and it was just 77 regular people.
We're taught that it really boils down to, we're taught into the 10 founding fathers were the saviors of America that just made everything happen.
This is the current culture that America has. It's always been ingrained in us that we don't need other people to be sufficient because we rebel against other people, and that we have to be fiercely loyal to what we feel would best run the country, because this is what our freedom is ingrained in. This is a societal issue. This is not a political issue.
Well,
we
and if
need
you
to
want to
eliminate even the thought of picking a side before we ever decide to come together as a fucking divided nation or unified nation.
Well,
and
I mean,
hate to say this, but if this doesn't sound like the fucking Korean Empire, right there. Mm-hmm. We have to have a unified fucking Korea. We have to have a unified United States.
I want to add one more thing to that after you're done.
Sure. I am at the point where I think a lot of us would be better off if we had states that were very much politically aligned, get together, section off.
So what we've got right now, during the Trump administration, we were dealing with this issue where he was separate. I mean, I call it political segregation, where we had the Democrat states and the Republican states, and the Democrat states are all anarchist, terrible, lawlessness.
Even though the majority of the U.S. economy is blue.
But this was the same thing stated during the Civil War. And it came from the southern states. It came from the northern states against the southern state, how they were rebellious and they wanted to split from the country. And it was the southern states that are preventing us from being unified and working together. This is
As a Floridian, we can all agree to eat Florida.
All in favor of this measure on the floor, say aye. Let's do this the commie way, direct democracy. All on the floor, all in favor of this, say aye. Just saying.
I don't even want Miami no more. Y'all could fucking go. Y'all could just
I'm in Pensacola, and we can geet Florida straight down to Cuba.
Bye. Go. I don't even want fucking Miami no more. I'm too old to enjoy Miami. Y'all can fucking go. Y'all can go.
Seriously,
well, this is actually a good, talking about populism, though, I think is a good way to start transitioning to talking a little bit about the Reich and the way that the particular rhetoric was used to kind of maneuver people into an almost cult-like worship of Hitler rather than a loyalty to the party itself. Because I think a lot of people who learn about World War II, and this is one I do know a bit about, they think that people...
But there was a two-end front to this. Because, I'm sorry, 3. Because while this was happening with Hitler in Russia, it was happening in Italy with Mussolini.
Yep,
and it was happening in Russia with Stalin all at the same time.
Well, yeah, it was the populist revolution in Europe is what it was called by some historians for a while. Variance being incredibly freaking generous again. Thank you so much for your super chats tonight, Variance.
Seriously, yeah.
I'm going to credit you for buying my next freaking book, Sad But Understanding Florida Noises.
If I can ever get an Xbox, it's coming from Variance at this point.
Most people that live in Florida know how terrible Florida is, unless they are a extreme Trump, they think Trump is the next coming of Jesus.
Or unless you're a boomer moving down there because your aching joints demand it.
I think that's why I have this fear. I'm afraid of moving to Georgia because it would be further south for me. And New Yorkers are notoriously known for you hit 60, you go to fucking Florida. And I'm like, I'm not going to be like that yet. I find myself moving further and further and further south. And now I'm like, fuck, that's a border. Fuck, it's on the border. No.
So there's
we
one
have
more
to eat
thing
Florida
I
to
wanted to
save
put
me.
in about while we were talking about Trumpism and political segregation. You know, we have the Democrat states, we have the Republican states. All the Democrat states are bad, the Republican states are okay.
And on the flip side, you have Democrats saying the same thing, that it's the Republican states that are not adhering to pandemic protocols.
But we're also not entirely wrong, to be fair.
They had specific arguments against it, like during the Affordable Care Act, the many, I'm not saying all, but many of the Republican governors, because
I want to say it's the majority of Republican states did not take the Medicaid expansion.
It's true, because the party's goal at that point was stop anything Obama did.
Insider information here, y'all. Do you want to know why a lot of Republican states did not take the Medicare expansion? Because it came with a rider that they had to adapt. They had to adopt Common Core policies statewide. And many southern states felt that this was too much of an intrusion of the federal government when they were supposed to be governing their own school systems. And we all know how states are very much for states' rights. A lot of states, in order to get the Medicare expansion, had to adopt Common Core in order to qualify for it.
And there's really nothing wrong with Common Core. They just turned it into a massive fear word, and they used the math thing against it.
My kid's doing it now, and it's terrible for a New Yorker, because New Yorkers are I want the most direct, fastest, get me to it.
Well, yeah.
So as he's doing like these...
Why?
Yeah, my son's autistic. The why doesn't register very well.
Okay. Hey, my brother's autistic, but
so it was just very overwhelming for me. I'm not saying it's a bad system. I'm just saying that
especially having to tutor that. I mean, my dad would just scream at my brother because he couldn't. He thinks 8 times 8 is 48, and he's 28, and he thinks 8 times 8 is 48 still. So Dad and I would both get frustrated trying to teach him math. But
luckily, my kid, that's the one thing my kid loves is fucking math.
Supposedly, those studies have been done that show a lot of the Common Core stuff is actually more efficient once you've learned it. It's just harder to learn.
It is,
yes.
It absolutely is.
The whole point, Common Core is about teaching why it works and not just making you memorize.
So, thank you. Carbuckle, it's actually the opposite. The way that we were taught was... These are the numbers. This is what they add up to. Repetitive, memorize. That was for test taking.
8 times 8 is 64.
Yeah,
8 times 8 is 64.
We weren't taught the why that things are. We were taught remember, so that when you sit in front of that standardized test, you fucking knew it instantly.
Thanks, No Child Left Behind, Bush.
Yeah, I grew up during No Child Left Behind. We had something called the WASL.
I was a little... But this was a Reagan thing too. I mean, this is how I was taught in the 80s. Now, yes,
we don't want to. Okay, I'm going to limit this to the next 2 minutes for this digression, so we can get back to talking about the empires.
I graduated high school in 2013.
Oh, I graduated.
You do not look like you're that much older than you can't be older than 30.
School, 2013, I was divorced.
You cannot be older than 30.
I'm also old, Bill. I'm also older than you.
Oh yeah, I graduated
high school in 2009. I technically could have graduated in 2007, but I decided to stay through 2 more years for Running Start.
That was the same year as Chris, at least. But
I graduated. I was supposed to graduate in 2000.
Okay, I was in kindergarten in 2000.
Yeah. Okay, Jen has aged extraordinarily well. We might basically be the same human, but slightly less angry.
Good fucking foundation, not foundation, good cover stick, a good powder, and fucking oil valet.
Well, you know what? My grandma, she is 80, and she sold Mary Kay for 40 years.
I hate Mary Kay.
Ew, MLMs.
But it sits too heavy.
Without her makeup, she still looks like she's maybe 60.
You know why? Because she's using that cakey ass makeup, but she's using good moisturizer. That's why.
The moisturizer,
she's washing her face every night, and she's using good moisturizer.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this channel does not endorse MLMs, and that includes Mary Kay. Just saying. No. I'm actually at some point I'm going to do a video on MLMs and cult structures because that's something that I'm interested in. But we were starting to get into populism.
But we. For that.
Well, we might. Maybe I'll collab. But for like on the topic of like populism and the Reich, I kind of want to get into a little bit. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is my understanding because I talked to Holocaust survivors and things, and some of them were actually there, during the time when Hitler got elected, and he ran not as much on a party platform, but on a him platform. He was a fucking superstar in the same way that Trump was. Trump didn't run as a Republican. Trump ran the Republican Party and basically took it over. And I know that there's been a lot of comparison here, but I really want to dive into specifically how he got elected and
what Hitler did. What Hitler did. After World War One, Germany, I can't remember the fucking, maybe it was the Treaty of Versailles.
It was the treaty. It was like I want to say it was the Treaty of Versailles. It was the heavy reparations that they were requiring.
Right, Germany,
and he ran on the Lebensraum platform, living room.
Germany was made to pay extremely heavy reparations to the rest of Europe for the atrocities committed during World War One. I don't even, which is really funny because I don't even think the guy was German that shot Archduke Ferdinand.
No, he wasn't. That's the best part.
No, but Germany
let's commit more atrocities.
Yeah, Germany used it as an excuse to invade another country, and that's why they got held responsible, was because they also kind of caused the most problems.
Well, and that's the thing. Germany was trying to create its own empire at that point in time. Germany had seen how successful the British Empire had been.
They were also a young, hot-headed country at the time as well.
Well, gee.
Much like America, they didn't have enough experience to understand how they were going to fail.
So, and I'm gonna break this down for you guys as far as Age of America. There are buildings in England that are older than our country.
Yep.
My family was here 125 years before the Revolutionary War.
Yep.
This is how old England is, and this is how young we are.
Yep. Pensacola, down here, we were owned by Spain for a longer amount of time than America has existed.
They got here in
I'm staring in a state that was like incorporated in like the 1900s, just saying. Or like
I grew up in New York, so I mean, you want to talk about fucking old.
Oh yeah, you're in New England.
Okay, you guys really want to have a dick measuring contest? My tribe has a freaking unbroken bloodline that goes back to the Siberian land bridge.
Y'all want to talk about fucking Europe? I can get into some folkism shit real quick, okay?
If we want to talk about sizes, y'all are both girls, so...
Oh, honey, you can't compete with what's in my drawer.
Okay, Jen can pull out her dick collection.
I can pull out my dicks.
I want to see your collection. I can
pull out.
All right, all aboard the other train, guys. We are headed straight there.
So the way that Hitler had gotten elected, it was very similar to Trump. It was very similar to Trump. Germany was in extreme economic straits. They were suffering under these reparations while they were trying to rebuild their own country.
See, you made the poor Valid Bold suffer, Jen. Apologize to the Valid Bold.
I'm sorry, the valid one. So, yeah, damn it, I got off fucking Gaynor. I got off track. Gaynor does this shit to me all the time.
I did this shit to you. It was absolutely my fault. Blame me.
Germany was trying to not only rebuild their country after World War One, which Germany by far was the hardest hit country within one of the hardest hit, if not the hardest hit country in World War One, and then was forced to pay reparations to other countries, which was
and that's what pissed Hitler off was Germany being hit the most, and and he couldn't be an artist.
I have a theory that Hitler had a lot of post-traumatic stress when it came down to self-worth.
Definitely.
Very much fell into this
Well, actually, it's not just that, though. He also spent a lot of time in Paris, which was the hotbed of anti-Semitism at the time.
I'm saying his motivations for his reason for power, not his anti-Semitism. I think he had a lot.
His reason for power, he explains that a bit in his memoir. It had a lot to do with his time in the military.
His time, and that's what I'm getting at. I think he had a lot of self-worth issues as a child, and then saw in the military what gave him power and how to rise up through those ranks in power. And I think he got a taste of it, and he wanted more. And
once he hit chancellor, then he started breaking that down, and because the chancellor is like the prime minister. It's not
he
the
got
king
to the
or
top.
The queen. He got
to the top.
chancellor, and then he went, All right, I'm
Well,
in
and
charge now.
this is also a reminder.
No,
This
but I
is-
think it went further than that. I think he got to the top and then said, "This is not enough." He wanted
Yep.
other countries.
Of
He wanted
course.
to be ruler of this one. Well, if I can be ruler of this, I
Well,
can be
again,
ruler of
it's
that one.
Lebensraum, living room,
Living room.
which this is also a reminder for those of you who didn't know. And actually, the YouTuber Three Arrows, if you guys are familiar with him, he does excellent work. He is German himself, and he talks a lot
Good
about
dude.
the Weimar Republic. Was basically Germany at the time, extremely democratic, extremely well developed, high culture. These war reparations really wrecked their economy, and there was a
Yes.
lot of resentment, and the bread and circuses went
So-
away. So what happened? Populism.
So
Yep.
we now have a comparison. We excuse me.
So now we've got Rome and Germany for exactly
But no,
very similar
we have.
things.
I have a comparison between Germany and the United States. We have Germany, who was absolutely leveled by war, was leveled economically by war, leveled their banking system. Now, here we come.
Ikeda Hakubi, thank you for the $5
Thank you.
super chat. Everybody in this chat agrees.
I'm not even
here-
profiting from this, but thank y'all
Here
for donating.
Now here we come. We've been attacked on September 11th, so we are now at war with Afghanistan.
And anti-Muslim.
Yes, no, well, yeah, we've got the anti-Muslim thing. You know what? It's like every presidential election, we're gonna hate somebody else.
I mean,
Like,
guys,
we
actually
don't
brings up
even
a-
have a strong track record of hating the actual. At least Germany just hated the Jews. We
At
just
least
fucking
Biden
hate
didn't
everybody.
run on hate. At least Biden ran on. Let's all get together and actually start working
Jen,
stuff out
you can't
again.
you can't exactly say that America doesn't hate the Jews. I mean, did you not see
No,
what
I'm
happened
not
in
saying that they
Charlottesville?
don't. I'm just saying it's not their time right now.
Wait,
What is it now? I don't know if it's Hispanic people or if it's Democrats.
It was the
I'm
early
trying to-
1900s
well, there was
when
a
all the
sign
white
at a
people
recent-
hated each other.
There was a sign at a recent Trump rally saying that they were going to take out the Indians first. So I guess they hate us.
Oh,
That's
we're back to the
Trumpism.
natives now.
That's
Oh, we're
Trumpism.
cycling.
Okay, let's face it. It's always been the natives. Like, even in Washington, like, even in the Pacific Northwest, which is, like, the most liberal fucking haven. Like, California thinks they're liberal. No. Come up here. And we have an actual communist in the Seattle
so
City
we're
fucking
cycling.
council.
Yeah, try
We're cycling
Seattle,
back.
yeah.
We're cycling
Yeah.
back now to the natives. Okay, so this
Well, the
is-
rest
we're
of the
coming
country
full
is
circle.
remembering that we exist because there's just so few of us that most people who aren't in Indian country don't remember that we
Okay.
breathe.
So we're
Well,
sorry.
what really happened was it came up that the people, we started hearing on the news, well, at least I did on NPR, that the natives that live on reservations have trouble getting regular postal mail, and this started turning into, voter suppression.
Yeah.
That's where this really started to come up.
Yeah.
All right,
So-
I have to do a Pacific Northwest call out really quick. Oregon represent other also known as the state that in its southernmost I-5 signs says Seattle on it. The joke being, of course, that they're telling the Californians to keep driving north because they don't want them either.
but we
I'm
now have a
sorry.
comparison.
I'm sorry.
We now
Press
have a
F to pay
comparison.
respects for our guests.
We have, so granted it's not the same motivation, but we have kind of the same stage set. Now here we are in the US. We were attacked on 9/11. That shook the fucking country. Understandably so. We went to war then. War is not cheap. And excuse me. What they did decide to do in Afghanistan, this was the model for the second Iraq invasion. They were going into major cities. They were sending units not only to major cities but to smaller towns, rooting them out, taking their governmental structure out, which is something that the United States does all the fucking time, taking their governmental structure out and then putting in whatever puppet that they want to. So it's just fucking madness. Then we got lied to about the Iraq War, yet another stupidly expensive fucking war. That fucking
Wait,
broke
there
my
are no WMDs? And the whole thing that was even better is that H.W. Bush, he did Desert Storm because of two reasons. One, because after Vietnam, we were losers, and he wanted to prove that America was not losers. And two, because he was trying to win re-election against Bill Clinton, which, of course, failed.
No,
But
but
Bush
however,
went in there to be
Saddam
like-
Hussein came in and absolutely slaughtered people. He moved into
Well, that's
Kuwait.
you.
He moved into Kuwait, non-provoked, and fucking slaughtered people,
But did
and
we
was
have an
continuing
alliance
to
with
do
Kuwait?
so.
And I mean, I get that, but Bush was like literally
But
calling him a
we can sit
Hitler.
here and argue this shit too. Because
Well, yeah.
are you telling me that when it came to Rwanda, when it came to Haiti, that we had no business stepping in when leaders came in and were slaughtering groups of people? When it came down to Yugoslavia, that we shouldn't have moved in on that?
I think that coming in immediately with military force is not always the best option.
But he didn't
As a
come in
politician,
immediately. No. He didn't come in immediately with military force. They imposed sanctions. Saddam would not listen to that. They limited his oil supplies from our country. They got linked up with the fucking Saudis and was cutting them off from the fucking Saudis. But they have oil.
Yep.
He wanted the Kuwaiti oil.
Yep.
Then Saddam just decided to be a prick and light all the fucking oil fields on fire, because if he couldn't fucking have them, fucking nobody could. However, this wasn't immediately moving with military force. This was after months of sanctions. This was after attempts at negotiation. And he was moving up there in waves, slaughtering innocent people because he wanted their oil.
It honestly took us way too goddamn long to intervene because nobody nearby did.
And we did have a defensive alliance. So we did have a defensive alliance with Kuwait, and we had an oil alliance. We had a resources alliance with Kuwait.
Right, but then when we showed up, we still carpet bombed a bunch of civs. And then said, "All right, we won."
But to this day, will always support HW's reasons for moving to Iraq.
Okay, I understand what you're getting at. Yeah.
Baby boy, no. Baby boy, no.
Weapons of mass destruction.
And that's the thing, Junior. Yes, and Kuwait actually asked us. They said, "Hey, Kuwait had tried to fight for themselves, and they said we don't have the forces for this. They are killing us." We are trying. It's not like we just decided to move the fuck on in. Kuwait actually approached us and said, they're killing us. We need help. I will always support that.
Okay. Yeah, if they ask us for help directly, that's a thing. Yeah.
So now we've got the second Iraq War, which was unbelievably expensive. We then had the too big to fail. We had the housing market bust. We had the too big to fail banks bust. How many recessions did we hit in 3-4 years? 2?
I mean, the Bush recession it was just a 4-year.
Well, we had the Bush recession, and then we had another recession under Obama, if I'm not mistaken. So
actually, not really. No, under Obama, the first 4 years were kind of
But we had a massive wartime deficit because Obama was the one that wanted to continue to surge troops into Afghanistan and Iraq.
So there was a deficit, but that doesn't directly relate to the actual economy itself. There's so many different ways to measure the economy. So people will just go by the stock market, which is how they defend Trump.
No, but the stock market absolutely does play a role, because if our stock market crashes, it crashes the other markets in the world, and it crashes trade. We are so heavily reliant on other countries for everything that we fucking have that we cannot afford for our stock market to crash and crash the world economy.
Okay, can we at least agree that GDP is completely worthless as a measure of economic growth?
Jesus. Yes.
Also, can somebody please, if I'm wrong about this, wasn't our credit rating being threatened to go down under Obama?
It was not. It was actually under Bush, if I recall correctly.
Was it under Bush?
That was under Bush.
It was under Bush because of the banking crash. Because of the way he handled it was because of how he handled the 08 crash.
It was 2008. Yeah, it was 2008.
Well, it was because of the bailout and the way they handled the bailout and the acquisition of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
But Obama did nothing. I shouldn't say Obama, because we all know that it's not just the president that runs things. But the Obama administration did absolutely nothing to attempt to control inflation or attempt to control rising wages.
So
nothing.
The thing with fiat currency is, as long as you have a way to distribute it and work with it, the inflation factor can be modified. So just printing more money doesn't mean inflation. But if you look at
what's causing the majority of the fucking inflation? It's the credit market right now. We're not getting. Here's the thing, though. We need to come back to, in the Weimar Republic, that actually did cause the inflation, because they printed a bunch more money to pay off their debts, and that devalued their currencies. Let's talk a little bit about that.
What started happening in Venezuela,
and that was before modern currency style, before our
Fed.
But
we're pitted in the same. We were pitted in the same position.
I mean, to be fair, we were still on the gold standard at the time.
We
Oh, yeah,
were
this was the
pitted,
40s.
we're put in the same position that Germany was put into when Donald Trump had decided to run. Our inflation is rapidly rising. Our wages are not being met. We're paying off debts to countries that the common person cannot understand why we're paying off this debt. Countries that are supposed to be trading energy credits with us are not, because they're not making theirs. Our southern states are not coming up to their standards with their shit, so our energy credits are fucking lacking. We can't pay them off to other countries to start paying down our debt. So here we are.
The commoners don't usually understand most of that, though. They just hear other country bad or other country not paying, and they just go along with it. But
here we're in the same position. We're in this position of a failing economy. People are now looking towards countries that we are severely in debt in and blaming them for some fucking godforsaken reason.
It's all their fault that we did something wrong.
They're blaming them. So now we're looking at outside countries. Yeah. This was the same thing that Hitler stepped into. This was and what did he do? The living room party. He was one of them. He was not a politician. He understood. He understood the crunch in the pocket. He understood how hard it is to feed your kids.
And here's the other thing, though. He was also famous before he ever ran. And that's something everybody forgets when they study World War II, because they don't cover this very much in traditional U.S. history classes. But, like, Mein Kampf was published when he was in fucking prison, and he had people rioting outside of his cell to get him released because he was already fucking famous.
He was an accomplished author at that point. So he was already he was already standing in for a celebrity stance. So he was
an artist and he was an author. So he had the capacity to
and a decorated war veteran.
Right.
And a decorated war veteran.
So he's already got this celebrity. Noodles. You can't go in the bathroom. I have baking sheets sitting. Yes, that's Noodles. Darcy's been on the bed the whole time. Dude, Darcy's been on the bed the whole time.
There are four of them. They often lick their balls on camera. Like, Jen gets angry.
Those chairs back there are keeping my golden retriever from, like, coming in here and
bring him in. Bring him in. We don't give a shit. Bring him in. but Hitler had celebrity already. He had celebrity. Yeah. He had fans already.
Yep. He was well known, just like Trump was already.
He's stepping into a failing economy. People can't feed their kids, and they want to find somebody to blame. But they want to find somebody that they don't. Yeah, he was bad artist.
Yeah, he wasn't the best artist, but yeah.
I can't. I meant accomplished, as in he was.
And Mein Kampf wasn't really the greatest.
It wasn't great.
Okay, guys.
Hold on. Let's get some perspective here.
Okay. Can I address the super chat and read it first?
Yes. Oh no, that's what we're addressing.
Yes. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Have you read Mein Kampf? I would not call him an accomplished author. There are things that do not.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, there are things that do not come through well in translation between English and German, first off. Second, you also have to remember that accomplished often means both sales and reception and influence. And when you're talking about Mein Kampf as an influence, it is one of the most influential documents ever published.
Okay, perspective.
I disagree with everything in it, but it is still one of the most influential documents ever published.
E.L. James, the author of 50 Shades of Grey, is considered an accomplished author. Okay, this is the scale that we mean it on.
So porn books are accomplished authoring.
That's not porn.
That is romance. That
is nothing but a Trump.
Not an emperor. It is not a happily ever after, but
that is nothing but a Trump supporter romance novel. That's all that shit is. But Hitler and Trump have stepped into a country looking to blame someone that was easy to blame. Politics is complicated.
It is.
And the Jews were Hitler's thing, and Trump, it was the Mexicans.
Rode down the escalator and said the Mexicans and the Muslims.
Whoever lived south apparently is the easy target.
But we also south or east. Let's stress this for a second, though, because one of the things he did was he unified angry people under a message and gave them someone simple to blame rather than recognizing the complexities of the system. This is the tale as old as the Roman Empire, at least, if not older.
And the best part about this is he still, after almost 4 years of being president, still doesn't understand the intricacies of the system because he
Neither
doesn't
did
read his
Hitler.
reports. He doesn't
Neither did
care.
Hitler. Neither did Hitler.
And like,
Well, and let's
do
talk.
the job.
Well, and let's
Hitler
actually
didn't.
talk about this a little bit too, because we now have 3 empires on the table. We've got the
Yes.
U.S., we've got Rome,
Roman.
and we've got the Reich.
Mhm.
So we're now talking about the Reich. We are no longer talking about the Weimar Republic. How did Hitler consolidate his power? The same way that Caesar did. He
Mhm.
got his people who were closest to him. He started removing his political opponents, sometimes by assassination, sometimes by, like populist sentiment.
Extradition,
But-
right.
But
Isn't
he,
that an
like,
ironic
but he
end?
definitively, same way as Caesar did, used his war veteran status. He ran on the same sort of platform that Caesar did, which was Lebensraum, expanding out, similar to what Trump had talked about. Hey, I like the nuclear bomb. Let's use that on people.
Mhm.
Why are we not expanding further?
And if
So-
I'm not mistaken, Caesar, I forgot who Caesar blamed a class of people to, and I can't remember.
I am
who.
so
Was it
glad that
Greeks?
the Joint Chiefs and
It
stuff
wasn't the
like
Greeks. It was. I want to say it was the. Was it the Ottomans? It might have been
Maybe
the
it
Ottomans.
was the Ottomans, but he
the Ottomans
blamed
that did what?
that
He
Caesar was
blamed the
blaming for all
Muslims,
the
whoever the
ills.
Muslims were at the
Yeah,
time.
the
He
Muslims.
blamed
We're
the
back to the
Muslims.
Well, it's
now
always
we're
the
back to the
Muslims.
Muslims. Now we're back at the Muslims.
Because if you're a Christian nation, you're just going to demonize the Muslims. So
Right, but this was also the excuse to eradicate Northmen. It is the Northmen that are coming in and taking your homes.
Gaius,
And
who I
take-
trust on these matters, is the Saracens.
Saracens, thank you.
our job.
Thank you, guys.
They took
Oh,
our
the Persians.
job.
Yeah, they were
Persians,
the Persians
yeah,
at the time,
the
which
Persians.
later became the Muslims.
It was the Persians.
Yes,
But
Persians,
this is
yes.
Rome did this too with Northmen. They're coming in and they're taking your farmland and they're trying to instill a different government and they, instead of using economics, instead of using politics, they used religion
They took our
because their
jobs.
gods hold nothing to accountability. This is the way of their gods. This is the way of life. They are savages. Now, go back to Trump's Germanics. Go back to Trump's initial campaign speeches. He literally called people in South America savages.
Yes, and also he called the people in Puerto Rico dirty. And tried to trade it for
But
Greenland.
This
Also,
is, try to trade it for Greenland.
it
Who
gets
the fuck's gonna
better.
give him
No,
Greenland?
seriously, I'm completely serious. This is
That's
100%
a country.
proven. He was like, "Let's
God.
trade Greenland for Puerto Rico," but it wasn't.
Is he
just
aware that Greenland is like its own government, its own country?
Yes.
It's not a territory.
Well,
Like,
technically, I think there's. I don't remember which European country it is. I want to say it's Sweden. Somebody has a minor claim to it. It's kind of like, the British Empire. The Queen is technically the Queen of Canada,
But she's-
but
yeah.
Canada is its own thing, which is why countries lately have been saying, well, we're going to secede from the British Empire. And
Chat says it's Denmark.
Denmark.
Denmark, that's
Or-
it. Yes.
Why is it
thank
that all
you.
the weird shit happens in Denmark? Have y'all ever noticed that shit? It's like Sweden is fucking
Denmark
chill.
Denmark also had a lot to do with how Africa got fucked up. Like, let's not even go there.
Well, Denmark is extremely xenophobic.
That's a whole
Denmark is
separate show.
ridiculously fucking xenophobic.
Actually,
But-
it's not a whole separate show though, because the Danish Empire fell.
That's one that's not commonly talked about. I really don't know a lot of. But you ever notice like
Yeah.
Sweden's kind of chill, Norway's kind of chill. Fucking nobody hears about Finland, and here comes fucking Denmark. Denmark
Netherlands,
is the
it's just, like, off the
Florida
map.
of the Scandinavian countries. Denmark is the Florida of the Scandinavian.
like-
As a Floridian, yes.
Coming back to the 3 empires that we've discussed though, like let's transition to talking a little bit about Britain and kind of where
So
some
Britain-
of their revolutions and their fall came, because
Britain
they
is super interesting because I believe they are the second longest running empire outside of Rome. If I
by the way,
They're
for
still
watchability,
around. That's the thing.
Britain's probably
They're
going to be
not.
our last comparison in the Empire March, though I'm sure we can have Bill on again sometime. if he
England
wants to
has
come back
lost
on.
so many territories that they're no longer
They
considered an
have,
empire.
but
Yeah.
the sun still never sets on England.
Yes, it does. Have you lived in London? I have. It never
Okay, Jen.
fucking
I mean,
matters.
whether or not you call Jen, whether or not you
No.
call Britain and whether or not you call Britain an empire has generally to do with where you live in terms of within the country.
We're
Because
talking about the
Scottish and Irish
English.
people still talk about that.
We're talking about the
Well, they're
English
fucking bitter as shit.
Empire,
Okay, I understand.
not
I
just
understand.
Britain.
I get that.
But
But
the sun still never sets on the English Empire. The Queen.
the fall
has
of the British
great-
Empire is fascinating because when you hear about Freya, when you hear about how most empires fell, it was extremely fucked up political moves and war.
Yep.
This is what
Yep.
you hear. Civil
It's
wars,
always war.
split it apart. Always a fucking war. Split it apart. Fuck it, it's done, right?
Let's return
However-
to a running theme through the show. What causes civil war?
We kept getting distracted.
However, the British Empire degraded over time, naturally.
Yes.
And not only did it degrade over time, it lost its territories largely due to people voting and negotiation. They weren't
Exactly.
I mean, granted, we had the Falkland Islands War. You know, we've had a couple of wars and a couple of violent fights for independence against England, the United States,
American Revolution.
American Revolution.
And that was really the first
Revolution.
major one.
But-
But, we do still have
I mean,
countries
okay, let's
trapped-
face it. From Britain's perspective, it wasn't even all like from Britain's perspective, it wasn't even a major war. They had other
No.
things going on, and that's why they
Do
lost.
you know they don't even teach about it in England? They're just like, it was just like such a blip on the fucking radar that they were like, yeah, the teenagers decided
They
to
were
rebel,
involved
so
in
we-
two other wars, which is why the French
Yeah.
got involved because the French were already mad at them.
But like okay, so insight into UK schooling, into England schooling. England does not teach the American Revolution as we do, because to them it's pretty much the equivalent of the teenagers got out of hand and we kicked them out of the house.
And we
That's the
glorify the
equivalent.
American Revolution way more than...
That's the equivalent of the American Revolution to them. It's okay. You know, they
Okay,
were
so
kind
the immigrant half of my blood requires me to remind everybody that if the American Revolution hadn't happened, slavery would have ended like over 50 years earlier.
Thanks, America. I
yeah.
hear noise.
It's
For
Alex.
those of you who don't know, by the way, I'm half Brit. Like literally, my father immigrated here, and the other half of me is as from America as you can
I
possibly
still have
get as
family there.
native.
I still have family out there.
What part of Britain?
I lived there just south of London, Surrey. No,
Yorkshire,
wait, Surrey's north.
specifically Sheffield.
They're my family's
Sheffield,
in Surrey.
okay.
Yeah, my family's in Surrey.
Surrey.
And a couple of them still remained in South London. But, you know, they got
I know a
over
couple
here.
of people from Manchester, so...
Manchester boys. don't
So,
know.
Bill, if you ever hear me get mad, Jen goes New York, I go British. You will hear a very bizarre mix of South London and Sheffield. My British audience actually has started tracking my accent because it comes out even in the American periodically. But my natural speaking voice is this weird mix of American, South London, and Yorkshire, Sheffield specifically, because of the fact that I spent the first 6 years of my life over there. So, I learned to speak English over there, and then I came over here, and my accent was, beaten out of
we
me.
have a
so.
super chat, by the way.
We do. Thank you for the $10 super chat, Victor Conway. You guys are being so dang generous
Really?
tonight. Thank you all so much.
Seriously. This is
Brittany did
doing better
give-
than an NPR collection, like an NPR fundraiser. This is going better than that, so...
Britain did decolonize, but it's more that their hegemony evolved from direct colonialism to modern imperialism, which emphasizes economic subjugation, but they're still in the U.S. empire's shadow. We are going to get to that when we get to the conclusion, but we do need to talk about the decline a little bit, because I think Britain, being daddy, has a lot to teach us as far as why they fell apart.
It's interesting because
Teach me, daddy. Anyway, I'm
rebelled.
sorry I had to.
We rebelled from the British Empire. We wanted to be free from the British. Dude!
Nobody's going to let Jen finish her thought. Not me, not the cat, nobody.
But
Press F to pay respects for Jen.
no, they like playing with pipe cleaners, and Noodles likes to drag it around in his mouth and just scream for no apparent reason whatsoever. So weird.
I'm sorry, everybody. I have the hiccups now, and
It's-
now I'm starting to talk like this, and I don't know why.
Bill's drunk. So
I am not. I promise I'm not.
we wanted to separate from the British Empire. We wanted to separate from British rule. We wanted to separate from how England was run, and yet wound up modeling our system after theirs.
Sorry, I just read that comment.
We but then wound up modeling our system after theirs. We wound up falling into the very same behaviors, the very same systems, minus.
I still wouldn't. I still have issues calling America imperialist by definition. I mean, we have gone and can't get rid of the hiccups now.
Get yourself some water, Bill.
We have gone and we have territories like Puerto Rico, the Philippines, but these territories can apply for statehood. Puerto Rico right now is working on statehood, passing a resolution.
I have a question. How could you not consider American an imperialist country and then read the Manifest Destiny? How?
We have imperialistic tendencies.
We engaged in imperialistic tactics.
Okay, I'm just going to remind everybody Hawaii exists. Sorry, Bill, you lose.
Yeah.
Hawaii, yeah.
But even prior to Hawaii, we bought Louisiana from the French. But what did we do? The War of 1812, the Louisiana Purchase, where we systematically eradicated entire First Nations by force to expand our economic and our military powers. The United States, from its inception as a country, has engaged in imperialistic tactics the very same way that the British Empire and the Roman Empire did. The same way the Soviet Empire did as well.
Yeah, but, well, I guess since we're now talking about the Soviet Empire, first off, we did define it as an empire. And when I talk about genocide here, I'm going to be talking about especially cultural genocide, because one of the things the Soviets did was when they invaded, and I know this for a fact about Lithuania, but I know that it was done with nearly every Soviet country, they banned speaking the native language.
Mm-hmm.
They put
did it in Poland,
the natives
too.
into re-education camps. These were actually re-education camps, many of them.
Poland.
They weren't all freaking just like work camps, but they put them into actual re-education camps. They took like kids from their parents, same as the freaking Americans did, with the residential schools, same as the Germans did.
But the Romans
with Jewish
did the
kids.
same thing. The Romans did this too. The Romans would invade a country and then go ahead.
I am gonna go get that water.
Yeah,
go get water.
But the Romans did this as well. They would move into a new territory, they would conquer a new country, and then start this genocide of the local culture. There's actually a fight going on in my family right now. We're Polish. Part of my family is Polish. However, when we got the records back, we had learned that at the time of immigration, the reason why we couldn't find anyone in Poland was because they were listed as Russian. My family is from the Polish-Lithuanian border and the Polish-Ukrainian border. And for a large chunk of their lives that we can now trace back, Russians came in. They did not allow them to speak Polish. They did not allow them to practice Polish traditions. So now there's a big argument of, are we Polish or are we Russian? Because they were living as Russians at the time because they didn't have a choice. The way that we got out was Russia formed an alliance with Germany. One of my family members decided to say they were going on a vacation to Germany, got on a boat, and escaped. We did this in America. The British did this with their colonies. Australia.
I mean, America actually smuggled a lot of Jews out of Germany that way.
Right. Well,
mostly scientists and potential political allies. And
when it came to citizens, we let them pull into the port in New York City and turned them around.
And a lot of
when it came to actual,
like a lot of Nazis.
When it came to actual refugees, like, we tended to turn the refugees away, but, like, if they could be useful, potentially.
Yeah, as long as if you were useful.
Sounds like present-day America, where they're like, refugees are bad and they're going to come kill us all.
Romanization or Latinization, thank you, Gaius, was the term used by the Roman Republican Empire. This is exactly what every empire is built on.
I will give the Roman Empire a little bit of credit, though. They tended to fold other cultures into their culture. Like, they actually did the melting pot thing that America claims to, and then re-educated them on the melting version.
Not without resistance. If they saw that it was going to be too resistant, then they absorbed that culture. However, if it wasn't...
I feel like Comrade would know more about this than I did, but
Comrade
I do know
would.
that.
We gotta touch
But
on
there
Comrade.
but there was actually a concept within Roman religion, for example. It's Interpretatio Graeca. They would integrate like local religions, local practices, some bits of
Y'all,
local culture into their own.
I say this all the time. I've said it to every fucking pagan I know. I think the world would have been far better off if we had continued to live as polytheists and did not incorporate monotheism.
Well, let's face it,
Okay.
the Roman Empire got given steroids when it became Christian.
And the whole Dark Ages thing, yes, that set us back so far. And the problem we have today is that they just built a Christian Science church about a half a mile away from my house. The Christian Science people are the ones that say that medicine is satanic, not that medicine is a gift from God that helps us recover. No. That's
Medicine
we
is
just
literally
pray and that
science
fixes
is literally sacred in my religion because it's a gift from the gods. We can talk about that someday. Like I've talked about it on the show. I'm going to read the super chat. I'm going to suggest here's the trick that works for me. Bill, mute your mic, hold your breath through your next hiccup, and like keep it held, and that will help.
No. Easier one. Hold your breath. I have my kid, when my kid goes through them like crazy. Go, and then hold it for like 30 seconds, and then very, very slowly breathe out of your mouth.
Yeah, hiccups are just a spasm of your diaphragm. Any one of these techniques can help make your diaphragm stop spasming. I'm going to read Ikeda's super chat. Thank you so much, Ikeda, for your generosity.
Not
$5 super chat. My grandfather has a similar story. I'm glad your ancestor got out.
Not many were able to.
Well, since we're talking about the Holocaust, one of my partners, since we did bring up the Holocaust and the Reich, one of my partners actually is descended from a Holocaust survivor. 9 siblings went in, 1 came out.
Yeah. With us, that's the Irish potato famine. I think they had 12 siblings, 3.
Yeah, sorry guys, I actually do have the hiccups. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm trying to work with it.
Yeah, it was 12 siblings, 3 came out of that. And that by all accounts was absolutely the British Empire's influence on wanting to stifle Ireland. So, yeah, 12. 3 out of 12 came out of that.
So you brought up the Soviet Empire. The Soviet Empire is unique in the sense, though, that a lot of the bread and circus failings on the part of the Soviet Empire had to do more with over-ambition and greed than populism.
The Soviet Empire knew it couldn't feed its people. Knew they couldn't. So what did they do? They implemented the reward system. And if you were good, we will feed you.
Well, and what does that sound like, everybody? Because there was a very astutely, I would say, potentially poorly worded tweet that I saw recently that kind of sums this up, which is like, capitalism is eugenics for the poor.
Can I chime in for a second? Because I saw something pop up in chat.
The Dark Ages conversation?
Yeah, the Dark Ages thing. So, yeah, the Dark Ages were a big thing in Europe. But in other parts of the world, we had Africa, the Middle East.
The Ottoman Empire went through an enlightenment during that time, and a lot of what we know about mathematics today can be credited back to that enlightenment.
Yep.
Exactly. So people will say the Dark Ages, and in the context that white people made everything that's good happen, the Dark Ages are, the Dark Ages. But other parts of the world, all the way, China invented gunpowder.
I'm going to take advantage of your hiccups to
I
remind the
think
chat that
addressing it as the Dark Ages absolutely does further this notion that white people created everything, because no matter what a person of color would, no matter what dynasty of color was doing, the world is referring to this as the Dark Ages, as if nothing
we were
is
raised to think that
white people.
I mean, in American history, it's the white people that did everything. Christopher Columbus, and and we did this and that. But they don't say that about the stuff that happened in Africa.
I mean, he did.
China invented gunpowder. Oh, sorry, I still have the hiccups.
So we're getting pretty close to when we start to wind the show down. But I would like to take your hiccups in for a moment and to remind everybody the Greeks weren't white, motherfuckers.
I want to correct.
Neither was Jesus. Jesus was not white.
I want to correct Hannibal. The Soviets collapsed due to the I can't even say that right now. In the 1970s, when leadership was dying regularly within 3 presidents in 19 months. The collapse of the Soviet Empire actually didn't happen until 20 years after that. The collapse of the Soviet Empire started in 1989, and there was an unsuccessful coup against Gorbachev, which picked up momentum. They oh, thank you,
Oh,
Ikeda.
incredibly
Thank you
generous.
so much.
$20 super chat.
Yes,
from
well,
Ikeda. You are
have-
spoiling us.
Hamable, while yes, that shook up the system a little bit. When Gorbachev came in, Gorbachev really fucking bucked down on shit. People, and the food was running out. There were a series of coups over Gorbachev's reign that had been unsuccessful. However, those coups lit a fire. The Soviet Empire, if I'm not mistaken, either collapsed in either 91 or 92.
It was the very, I mean, it was still under Reagan, I thought. I mean, it was really like 89. That tear down the wall thing.
It started in 89. However, it took many years.
It took a couple of years before they got their official government, and then Boris Yeltsin.
Before
and then
other
Yeltsin.
countries decided to separate. It actually
that too.
Because for many years, a lot of these countries were like, well,
Maybe
it'll get better, maybe it'll get better. And a large part of that was they were breaking up into these smaller countries who didn't have a military force, who didn't have an economy. So what they were afraid of is if they separated from the Soviet Union, that left them open to a military invasion.
Looking at the chat, 89 was under the first Bush.
Yeah, the wall fell in 89. However, the completion of the fall of the Soviet Union was 91 or 92.
Exactly. Yeah, it took a few years. And then we had Boris Yeltsin, and it's Boris Yeltsin's fault that Vladimir Putin is where he is now.
But I'll give...
Can I read the super chat we got?
Sure. I thought we had addressed this already. Go ahead.
No, I started to say thank you, but I never read it. So good night. I likely won't make it live tomorrow. As much as I love you all, I should not neglect the people I live with. I hope this makes up for it. Look, you don't have to donate money to make up for not being able to be here. You can always catch things on the playback.
We're always on.
Yeah, we're perpetually, like, our VODs are perpetually available. I put them in the playlist. Your support for this channel has been incredible. Thank you so much for tuning in as often as you do. You're awesome.
Yes, Victor. The majority of Soviet citizens now, we have to remember the sheer size of the Soviet Union. I want to say there was something
they had a lot of the
I want to say it was something in the area of 20 to 30 new countries were formed from the
it was a lot.
Of the USSR.
And a lot of them were stands,
the USSR, Kazakhstan, Latvia. There was a whole bunch of them.
Lithuania, Poland.
No.
Yep.
Poland was not under Soviet rule.
I thought they said that they were.
No, Poland
was next to Germany. So unless the USSR took Poland's after the war,
Poland's fine. Okay, Poland was taken over by Nazis. Then the Russians came in, get the Nazis out, and then Russia wanted Poland, and then there was a whole fucking thing where, and this was World War II. Yeah,
I mean, we negotiated with Stalin.
There was a lot of negotiations and a lot of concessions made.
That was the whole FDR, Stalin, Churchill thing.
Right. At the time, Lithuania and the Ukraine were also part of Poland. So USSR got Lithuania, they got Ukraine. Poland was able to be on its own at that point. That was a lot of fucking political shit that went down there. A shit ton of political shit.
Okay, so I found the list of the 15 countries.
15.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Russia, Ukraine, Georgia, Belarus, Uzbekistan, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Moldova, or is it Moldova? Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia.
Okay, and
like
the reason that I
keep stands.
The reason that I kept mentioning Lithuania is because I have friends from there.
Let's look at this geographically.
Now let's look at how Belarus and Ukraine.
Belarus, Ukraine had kind of been a country.
And Russia still.
Just for the geography of it, Lithuania borders Poland. Tajikistan borders Afghanistan. This was the sheer size of the USSR. Now, the collapse. Poland was part of the Eastern Bloc. Yes, people say they were controlled by the Soviets as a client state. Yes, the Eastern Bloc states frequently acted independently. However, they had great influence from Russia. There was a lot of influence going on there. So, the decline.
Still
and
is.
there's always something. There's always fucking something in common. And what is that that's always in common with the decline of an empire? Yes,
Bread and
men.
circuses.
Yes, men.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you see, Russia in itself covers 2 fucking continents, for fuck's sakes. It does. My kid's learning about
Europe and
geography,
Asia.
and I've now had to have this fucking grilled
But
into my head again.
Technically, with alliances, Russia still has a major influence over most of the former U.S.
They do, as well as
USSR.
China, as well as China, who then has an influence over North Korea.
China and Russia are feuding like hell to try to control Europe and Asia right now because the U.S. dropped the ball.
They fucking.
The U.S. doesn't have any business on that side of the world,
But
except
this shit
for
has been
helping
happening.
South Korea.
Look up any fucking history
we should
of
be helping
people.
Taiwan, but like the freaking
And Taiwan, the whole disputed territory thing. Taiwan deserves their independence.
Habibul brought up a good point. Habibul brought up a really good point. It is this really bizarre thing. Any empire that attempted to invade Afghanistan, one got their ass kicked. Got the shit kicked out of them. And then fell.
Yep.
It's something with Afghanistan where the Russians moved in and holy fuck, they were like, we're going to take Afghanistan. No, bitch.
No. And that's where Osama bin Laden came from.
Yes, and we funded that. And then
we gave him his weapons, and then he used them against us when we tried to come in.
Gaius, did Alexander the Great conquer Afghanistan as Afghanistan, or was it part of a larger empire that he wound up taking over?
Because that could have been before Afghanistan was Afghanistan.
Right. When you want to get into the independence of Afghanistan, once Afghanistan became an independent country, every empire that has attempted to invade it lost and collapsed. Everyone. Except
America didn't collapse.
They were Parthians.
That's actually what the stream is about. Is we're kind of on the way to collapse. So now we've examined a bunch of different empires.
Not. So if we want to push back into where
can we let Jen finish her point really quick before we move?
The very first marker that you tend to notice is yes men. It happened in Rome. It happened somewhat with the British Empire. It can be argued that Henry VIII severely damaged the British Empire with his antics and who he decided to keep around him, which was mainly yes men. That by far took a big split from Rome, and they no longer had the backing that they once had. Now, they retained a lot of their territories. However, their credibility on a world stage never fully recovered from Henry VIII. And he brought men to court that were nothing but yes men and would execute men who told him no.
Gee, that sounds familiar.
Hitler had done the same. And this also happened to Gorbachev with the USSR. The reason why that coup was so successful was because he decided to start moving people into his cabinet that were yes men. And Gorbachev, Putin's got a fucking spine of steel. He does.
Mikhail Gorbachev lives in the United States.
He does.
Now.
Gorbachev
he's in a think tank, one of those political think tanks.
Gorbachev did not. He was far more impressionable about powerful people around him and was much more easily led. So they've always had this circle of yes men, and now we have Donald Trump that did it. He enacted.
He went an extra layer. Like he did like the nepotism thing times 50, and even included donors.
Nepotism, donors, and then anybody who no longer became a yes man was fired for somebody who was.
And then created a religious cult to back him.
No, he didn't create it. It was always there.
They were looking for a leader.
I've talked about how before in other contexts how Trumpism exists. God, I still have those hiccups. Existed before Trump.
Trumpism kind of really caught on at Gamergate. Like, Gamergate basically resulted in the election of Donald Trump. Like, if you actually trace it through to the way that especially the alt-right got radicalized because of Gamergate and because Breitbart and other news outlets covered that.
Just touch on Victor's comment real quick? It was relevant to European politics. England at the time of Henry VIII was constantly warring with France, was constantly warring with Scotland, which was for control of trade routes. So they were critically important to the trade in England and the rest of Europe, the trade coming in from the Atlantic and the trade routes coming in from the East. So while they weren't huge political players as the United States was, they were more of an economic player. And when Henry VIII had decided, now mind you also, everyone had fallen under Rome, and you did not go anywhere without Rome's permission. You didn't do anything, you didn't put in leaders, you didn't do any of that shit.
Well, and let's face it, World War II also gave the U.S. its economic powerhouse. If it were not for the World War II's destruction of Europe and the fact that we basically did not fight on our home front at all, like, the U.S. would not have the power it does now.
When Henry
also,
VIII
that put us
decided,
in the moral authority position, too. The moral authority position that we still pretend that we have now, that's where we were in World War II. But by the time we hit Vietnam,
Henry VIII, when Henry VIII decided to separate from Rome, this put both England and the other countries surrounding it, especially England's ports, which since the beginning of time, Southampton has been a massive trader and a massive port into Europe. When Henry VIII decided to break from Rome, other countries had to sit here and decide, are we going to continue to work with England, even though they are at war with Rome, and fuck our trade? Or, secure our trade, or do we side with Rome and fuck our ports? So while they weren't these massive political scale players, England was absolutely an economic one. And what Henry VIII did with breaking with the Catholic Church and breaking with Rome sent shockwaves throughout all of Europe, particularly France, who controlled the rest of the ports. If you want to come into the rest of Europe from anywhere across the Atlantic, you have to go through Spain, who they constantly fucking fought with. There was constant fighting of control between Spain, France, and England. You had to go through Spain, you had to go through France, and you had to go through England. There is no other fucking way into Europe to trade.
Yeah, those are like the three countries right there at that point. If you're coming across, it's England.
Gaius also
France
made another. Yeah, England held a lot of territory in France. And still,
they did.
I mean, honestly, they could probably argue that they still do hold some claim to some French thrones to this day. They probably still could.
So we are getting to the wrap-up portion because we have to do shill at the end, and I've got a couple things.
But yeah, I wanted to just wrap up into the fall here that I'm noticing. We had a chance. We had a chance after Reagan with Bush. Because fucking Christ, Reagan. Reagan's a whole nother show. We had a chance with Reagan with Bush.
We should do history shows at least once or twice a month.
Oh my
now
God,
that we're doing politics, let's talk history.
And I do have one thing.
Actually, Hercules is right. Let me correct that. Modern empires. I should say modern empires have never been successful after fucking trying to conquer Afghanistan. But without falling. Hey, Hercules, how many of those empires are left today?
Literally zero.
No empire that has attempted to invade Afghanistan has survived.
I mean, the only ancient empire that one can consider to still exist would actually be China. And
if I'm not mistaken, they didn't.
I'm surprised China made it that far west.
They didn't give a fuck about.
I mean, let's face it: the vast majority of China is empty space. Like almost all the population is on the coasts.
Yeah,
just like Russia and Australia. It's empty.
So Australia is more populated. Australia is far more populated than China is, though, in terms of.
But in the middle of Australia, where they have to like shoot wild boars and stuff, and kangaroos. Just joking.
Okay, like, God forbid you ever piss off a kangaroo. That's a different story. Go ahead, Jen. You've been cut off 4 times, and you are being so patient.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
We started with the yes men with Trump. That was one. Literally, like the only difference between, yes, Gaius and are the Ottomans around? No. But thank you, Ikeda. Modest support for the history streams. We'll be doing more of them.
Please.
So we started with the yes men. And the only difference between what Trump has done and what Kim Jong-un has done, and Kim Jong-il, and what's the son's name?
Kim Il-sung.
Kim Il-sung. The
yeah.
only difference between what Trump did and what they did is that the people he fired are still breathing.
Hail to the
Same
channel
purpose.
artist, by the way. Gaelic Knox is in the chat.
Hey, Gaelic
Thank you so
Knox.
much for coming by.
Hey, Gaelic Knox. Yeah, the only difference is a gun.
The lovely avatar that you guys see on the screen, as long with our logo, were both done by this lovely person.
So and then we have that. That was the start.
Get...
When he picked his cabinet, I knew we were done.
The whole thing about the yes men, though, with Trump, it's not about loyalty to him. It's about that he has captured so many of the voters of the Republican
But we're
Party.
not talking about voters. We're talking about the politics and the beginning of it.
It's the voters of the party that
and
are
clearly it wasn't
these
enough.
people.
Clearly it wasn't enough. Clearly that didn't work.
I mean, people are scared to go against him because they want to get reelected. And
no.
No.
And from a political perspective, they are not afraid to go against him because they won't get elected. People don't give a shit enough about their representatives and their senators and their congressmen to look into their actual policies. They vote along party lines. They vote.
Oh yeah, it's about that little R in
So it's not about that. The problem is the Republican Party, the Republican Party and the politicians within the Republican Party know that they are cracking and failing. And they also know that if they decide to speak out against the leader of the Republican Party, that pulls funding because super PACs will not back a candidate who is seen as unstable. If you look at Mitt Romney's donations, if you look at Mitt Romney's... you think I'm joking.
I completely understand.
If you look at Mitt Romney's donations from larger corporations and super PACs, they have taken a sharp turn down because he has decided to start exposing the cracks in the Republican Party. This is why the Republican Party will not speak out against Donald Trump. If they speak out against their leader, it's indicative of a larger problem. They lose money. And when they lose that money, they lose that power.
Yep.
This is the whole reason why.
Well,
the
but
QAnon
also
people get voted in the primaries.
Well, and let's face something though. You guys are talking about two different things. Bill, you are talking about senators and representatives. Jen is talking about cabinet picks and judges.
But this goes hand in hand with that.
Exactly. It's all linked together because the whole party influence it requires the legislative.
But I am
branches.
talking about cabinet members because this is
exactly
what
talking
Caesar
about the cabinet.
did.
Yeah.
This is exactly what Caesar did. He filled his cabinet with yes men. This is what Gorbachev did. This is what Hitler did. This is what
Hitler killed everybody who wasn't a yes man. Let's face it.
Well, Hitler went the North Korean route. Yes, he did. But yeah, okay. Well, let's talk. So that was step one. That's when I started getting nervous. I was like, oh, shit, this isn't good.
Okay, North Korea. Let's also talk about the PRC because they went the same route too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I kind of see.
There are re-education camps that Muslims are.
Yes, but I don't consider North Korea. I don't consider Korea an empire. I don't consider North Korea an empire because they do not have the territories. They do not have the economic standing.
But I do consider China an empire. They have over 50 minorities in their borders.
But China, y'all, has been the longest empire in fucking history. It's still going.
And you want to know one of the big differences between their culture and ours? The myth of individualism. China has a very, very collective culture and has for most of history.
Yeah. So
in fact, their empire nearly
nation.
fell apart. Their empire nearly fell apart because of individualism, and Confucianism was one of the antidotes to that.
Yep. Yeah, we're the Fire Nation, and they're like the Earth Kingdom or something, where it's they're still kind of like collectivist, but we're the Fire Nation, we're going to take you over because we're better than everybody else.
So step one was the yes men. That's when I started getting nervous.
Oh yeah, sorry. Let's get back to that.
I started getting nervous with that. And then I saw the xenophobia. Started this was the first time.
I was on his way down the escalator. This
was the first time I had seen xenophobia since before my time.
Really?
But before my I had not seen xenophobia from a leader, from a president.
Well, I mean,
Since
W
before I-
kind of W had a bit of it.
Yeah,
No,
I was
but
gonna
not on
say,
this scale.
Bush-
Not
Okay,
I
on
mean,
this
not on that scale, no.
Not
but-
directly, but like the
Right.
Islamophobia
No.
it kicked into high gear because of Bush.
You know, but he
Yes,
navigated
but
that.
no.
He was like, you know, we do.
He called it a literal holy war. He actually called it a
He
holy
called
war.
it.
Yes, he
wait,
did.
but wait.
So-
What? No. Bush did turn around and navigate and say, while these sects of Islam, while these organizations are turning this into a holy war, there was so many times, especially immediately after 9/11, where George Bush urged our citizens to turn around and say that these Muslims in America were our citizens and were hurt too.
Bush did his best, but just the fact that another religion that's challenging Christianity was out there, that's what
But we're
created
not
the
talking
issue.
about that right now.
But
I am
that's kinda
talking.
what it
I
was.
no. I am talking about the absolute direct
Oh,
way
yeah, no,
of
Bush
a
didn't
president
say all Muslims are
Bush knew
bad.
how to
of a president that turned around and said Hispanic people are savages. They are evil. We are locking them out of our country.
They are the
It
R
was a
word. They're not sending
announcement.
they're not sending their
They're
best,
not
quote,
sending
unquote.
their
They're
best.
sending rapists and drug dealers.
Okay,
and they're
Bill,
all bad.
Dear Susan does not like the R word.
So now, while we had sanctions imposed.
Press
On
have to pay
Islamic-
respects for our monetization, guys.
We had sanctions imposed on Islamic nations that were found to have high terror activity under the guise of national security.
Yes.
However, Donald Trump went full fucking xenophobia and literally tried to shut our borders to a continent because people were Hispanic.
I mean, let's
Yes.
face it, even the Nixon administration acknowledged that you have to use dog whistles. Like, they basically coined the idea with the Southern
But
Yep.
Trump didn't even use dog whistles. He was
Oh, he just straight
outright
up
about it.
went for it.
But that's
yeah.
what I'm trying to say. I'm agreeing with your point, Jen.
So then it was the xenophobia.
Yep.
Now I'm seeing
And,
that shit. Now I'm like,
the best
oh
part
my god,
is-
the moment an empire stops accepting other cultures and becomes xenophobic is when it starts to fall. And then, well, we had some economic crisis. He did start turning around and saying he wanted to cut Medicaid, he wanted to cut food programs. That made
well, he also started a
Because
trade
the poor
war with
don't
China.
matter. God forbid the poor get any
that's
help.
taking away the bread. That's
Well,
taking
and
away the bread.
COVID took away the circuses.
Right.
Barry
What-
Goldwater, yes.
Oh,
Barry Goldwater got that really going. yes.
Barry. Oh, Barry. But Barry
Yes.
Goldwater was not a president. This is
No,
what we.
but he was a candidate.
He was a
And he
candidate
pushed that platform.
who was not voted in.
Oh no, not at all. But
I'm getting a little irritated with the fact that we're throwing out this senator and this former candidate and everything else because that is
I'm
not
sorry,
what
I
we're
just saw
talking
that
about
pop
here.
up in chat, and I'm like, Barry
Right, but
Goldwater was the Republican nominee, and he did kind of bring up a lot of that stuff.
But that's
and the
not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the
I mean,
fact
no,
that
of
we
course
have an
not.
active
Yeah.
xenophobic, outright
Yes.
racist at the helm. And this
Absolutely.
many empires have had. The Roman Empire had
Yep.
racist and xenophobic motherfuckers who lost. That did not
Yep.
start the decline of their empire. The minute an empire starts to shut its fucking borders to anything that is not it starts to decline. Then he started talking about cutting funding to food programs, to education, to school lunch programs. So now he's taking away the bread. And then COVID hit.
Yep.
And the minute
And they
that
destroyed the
COVID hit-
pandemic response team.
The minute that COVID hit, outside of the pandemic response team, the minute that COVID hit was the Caesar moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
That was the moment that he turned around and said, I don't give a fuck about anybody living here but my own.
That's kind of
Well, can I
can
bring up a tangential point, by the way? Because you talked about Caesar, and there's another commonality between a lot of these empires, especially the ones that started as democracies. So we're specifically looking at the Weimar Republic, and if you want to talk,
I'm not comfortable comparing the United States to other democracies because our system was not and still does not run as one.
yeah, but we're very similar
it's
to the
different,
Roman.
yeah.
But it's very similar to how the Weimar Republic did run at the time because they were a republic, and it's similar to how Rome ran. And the reason I want to bring that up is one of the other big things that happened to both of those empires that started with HW and continued especially through W was that the people were willing to sacrifice more and more and more of their autonomy for security, which is one of the things that we saw with this administration, especially. Like, this administration had an unprecedented fucking power grab where the president basically just did a ton.
I mean, it's down to the point that he was upset that an app
TikTok
outwitted him and sold out his tickets, yet nobody attended the rally. So what did he do? He automatically cited it as a security risk, which granted, if you look at some of the shit that TikTok has access to, absolutely is a fucking security risk. However,
and it is Chinese.
TikTok has a predator problem.
Yeah, and TikTok
as an IT person, as an IT person, an amateur app developer, a lot of the things that people freak out about when they see permissions pop up for different things, that's not all stuff that goes back to the developer. That's stuff, like this app wants access to your files and folders. Well, that app needs access to your files and folders so it can look through your old photo album.
Yeah.
So
but
people kind of freak out about stuff.
I do want to address,
pulled the whole
a few
China
things that are happening in the chat. I'm not saying that Caesar wasn't a good politician. I'm not.
Oh, he was. He wouldn't have made it to the top if he wasn't.
Fucking brilliant. Good or bad, he was a fucking brilliant politician. However, I'm seeing a lot of similarities between Caesar and Trump within behaviors. Yes, Caesar did his job, and Caesar was good at his job, and that is the difference. I'm not saying that Trump is Caesar. I'm saying that
he's not good at his job, so no, he's not anything
well,
like
actually, Caesar has another thing in common with Hitler, which is that Caesar reinstated the bread dole and put a lot more money back into it and actually brought the bread back and the circuses back, which stopped the empire from being overthrown then. Mm-hmm. However, the power he seized started the entire chain of events.
This is right. This is what started. That's the point that I was bringing up. And this is and Trump did start this way. He filled the cabinet with a lot of yes men, and he actually had a few executive orders that did help organizations, that did help Black organizations, that helped lower income organizations. He started this way. He started funneling the bread back in. This is where Trump.
I'm sorry, though. Just that reminds me of the whole nobody did anything more than Black people except me, except maybe Abraham Lincoln. I've done more for Black people than anybody else.
But he started with the bread dole to kind of say, see, I'm different than every other politician. And then turn around and
my
said,
Mac's dying. Let me get my charger. BRB.
And then turn around and said, fuck everything. Then the pandemic hit. And I'm watching him do the very same thing that every other empire has. They got too far into their elitism and started to not give a damn about its subjects. And eventually the subjects turned around and said, fuck you.
I'm just going to leave Bill muted until he actually gets back because bumping around and stuff.
They turned around and said,
I muted you because you had a bunch of background noise.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, but see, the thing about Trump is...
Okay, no, Bill, wait. Jen was talking.
Okay, sorry.
Once the elitism got to be too high, and this is pretty common in every other empire. Once that elitism reaches that high tower, people get fed up because they start hoarding the food to the high tower, they start hoarding the money to the high tower, and they stop being so clandestine about it. This is when an empire falls.
Well, and that's what's happening with the elites here in the U.S. It's what started happening with the church in the Roman Empire, which is where a lot of the elites were. It's what started happening with, the high-ups in Hitler's empire. Though, for the Germans that did not get murdered, things actually did get better for them.
Can I address what Hercules is saying there for a second?
Hercules? Yeah.
Hercules, thank you. Yeah, but here's the thing. Those are very temporary. And while they were strict, they were very selective. He did not turn around and say, we're going to literally ban a continent. Now, on top of that, we had recoveries with this. And now granted, yes, we went through the Depression afterwards, shit like that. However, we had leaders put in place and economic systems put in place that were able to rebound us back, change our way of thinking, move to a more socialist society. We have had a series of leaders who have done nothing but degrade those views. They've done nothing but to degrade those systems and eliminate them altogether, to where I feel we can no longer be saved back from them. I believe that the damage is too done, and we passed 0 hour somewhere around Clinton, to tell you the truth. And it's just been a consistent continuation since Clinton.
It really was at the end of the Reagan and Bush era that
Reagan, but
really
it was,
died.
we had time. We had time at end of Reagan. We had time at Bush. We had that, okay, they did this. We can reverse this at this point. Clinton continued the cuts. Clinton continued the elitism. Clinton continued the class divide.
Corporatism. See, I'm going to say there is a little bit of a difference between elitism and corporatism, because when we're talking about the Trumps specifically, the elitism is what their problem is, and that's that, like Ivanka, we all have seen plenty of stuff from people who knew the Trumps years ago. There was a girl that went to school with Ivanka, and she suggested that Ivanka read this novel, and it was about a poor person. And Ivanka said, "Well, why would you give me a book about poor people? I don't care. Why would you ever tell me about that?"
Here's the problem, though. Without corporatism, elitism wouldn't be possible. At least
can
not,
we
at least not in this
Can
country.
we highlight what Duver?
Gotta be rich
I think
to
I'm
be
pronouncing that right. Duver.
We are in the last 2 minutes usually of our normal length, so we are going to have to start getting to wrap up at some point.
Duver had said the system had failed for all of the wealthy. Caesar just took advantage of that to get power. This is exactly what has been happening since the end of the Reagan era. Trump was just way more fucking upfront about it. So when he became more upfront about it, he bolstered those doing the same.
I will say, though, the one difference between what the Republicans did to get power over the last 50 years and what Rome did is that Rome utilized the returning of the bread, in Caesar's case. Republicans utilized racism. And that is something, racism and xenophobia have been core to the Republican platform for a long time.
Republicans utilized the circus, but it wasn't a happy one.
And I do want to get one more thing in before we end, if you don't mind.
Sure, because we're about to transition into shill really quick, and you can explain your whole, if you've got any appearances coming up, that kind of thing.
First, I want to say, now that the Trump era is about to be over, and we have President Biden coming in. It's not. But I'm going to get to that too. But we have President Biden coming in. Biden isn't the Biden 30 years ago. Biden has changed because he's a real person who can change. He's bringing in people that know what they're talking about. He's bringing a bipartisan coalition together of people. Biden is a negotiator, and he is a uniter. And I think that we can recover from what we've been dealing with for the last 5-6 years.
I want to address a counter to that.
Okay.
Biden's bipartisan team is corporate shill bullshit. Who he's putting in, people who are advocates of fracking, people who are advocates of the gold standard, people who have been advocates of...
Is Janet Yellen an advocate of the gold standard?
She's referenced that quite a few times.
John Kerry?
Yeah. The advocates for the gold standard. Advocates for fracking.
The gold standard would break America right now.
People who have turned around and said that, yes, we have far too much welfare going on into this country. If you take a look at Biden's team, Biden is filling his team with nothing but a bunch of neoliberal fucking centrists, and ain't shit gonna fucking change. The only thing that's gonna happen with Biden is that we go back to what we knew as normal.
We still haven't seen the whole cabinet yet. And
we're gonna wind up... Bill, you're talking to somebody who has come up in this for the past 20 years.
I understand, yeah, but I was...
Jen, can you give a little bit of your political insider backstory? Because I don't think Bill knows who you are.
Yeah, I worked on the Hill, I worked at the DOD, I've worked with many of the people that you're naming right now, personally.
Yeah, her family has, deep roots in politics.
My family's the Aldrich Rockefeller family.
Okay.
Who Biden is picking is not going to change anything. It's going to get us back to the normal that we knew in the past. So all we're going to do is in another 4, 8, 12 years, we're going to be right back here again. This is going to be a series, a cycle series, a cycle series. And every time it's going to get worse.
The one
Because
thing
we are
I
not learning.
The one
from
thing
the
I'm going to
mistakes of
add
the
to your
past.
point, Jen, is that Biden is a Band-Aid, and I've said this a billion times. I said this actually on your show, and you popped up the chat, so I'm going to reiterate it here. All it's going to take is a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed new fascist who actually believes solidly in these ideas and isn't near as narcissistic as Trump, and we're going to get the Trump
All it's
administration's
going to take is
platform
Mike
times
Pence.
50.
All it's going to take is
Honestly,
Mike
and
Pence.
yeah, Pence is setting
That's
himself
all
up.
it's
That's
gonna
why he
take.
got in none of the drama
And if
over
but
the
if
last
you
4
think
years.
if you think shit is bad now under Trump,
Oh, it's going to get worse. It can get worse.
we
Absolutely.
will women, gay people, anyone who is not a straight Christian from a middle class family
Indians.
will suffer
So
under
The
him.
Republicans,
bet-
the Republicans are turning on us too. Nearly every single Trump pick, like the Rezzes have been sounding the alarm for a while, and nobody's listening to us. Every single Trump pick has ruled against Native American sovereignty, and he stripped a tribe of their tribal status.
So
Like they're gonna
here's-
fuck us over.
Here's where we're at with Biden. Biden is the rebound after a really shitty relationship. You know how you kind of have, like, you get this really fucked up abusive relationship and then you date this really fucking boring person for like 3
No,
months?
because I'm asexual.
Well, Allie, do you know what I'm talking about? you come out of
Yeah,
this really
I've
fucked up
literally
relationship.
refused. I've literally refused to have relationships, so I don't do that again.
But like you come out of this really fucked up relationship, right? And then you date this safe person for like 3 months. And then you're gonna make a choice at the end of that. You're either going to get bored and go back to and not learn your lesson and go back to the same kind of partner that had hurt you prior, or within that safeness of a relationship, you understand your worth and strive for something that does excite you, that does treat you as your worth. It all depends on where your marker of normal is.
Well,
If
it
you
also
go-
depends on how much you value getting your needs met. And
Right.
that's kind of the similar thing. Are we going to demand change, or are we going to settle for normal?
Now here's the
So
thing.
here's the thing. We said that at the same time.
If
I do
you're
want to interject.
normal, but
Let-
if your
let
normal
Jen finish.
is okay, say your normal was your parents didn't beat you, but your father was real misogynistic and toxic masculinity, and your mother didn't speak up very much. So while you sacrifice your needs and your reasons for happiness to be who you are, and you were decently happy but not ecstatically happy. If that was your normal, you have a very high likely to up that abuse in search of that dopamine rush. Biden is our normal for that.
Well, there's also, like, you forget, though, there's that pivotal moment. When you come out of abuse, you can either become an abuser, or you can go
Right.
back to abuse, or you can learn your lesson. You've got three forks in that road, and America has been able to make that choice now, and they almost made the wrong one, meaning that we're at the point where we've got that fork again after the 4 years. All right, Bill, you let Jen finish.
Go ahead,
You can go ahead. You were patient.
I'm sorry. Jen, are you good?
Welcome to the show. I shut Jen up all the time too. It's just that like, y'all have been Jen has
look.
been passionate tonight, and if I would have shut Jen up, I would have heard
And
about
she
it.
has. I mean, she's got every reason to. I just have 2 points here. The first one is it's an anecdote, really. When we were back during the election for 2016, I was wondering, okay, Trump's got to pick a vice president. So who did the worst thing of 2016? And then it's like, Mike Pence did the bathroom bill in Indiana. I bet that's going to be it. A week later, he was announced the vice president. But the second thing I want to get at, the real part, that's not just, a funny anecdote. The Democratic National Committee, when we came together and actually had the committee, there were all of the Bernie delegates that came over and we, came together on a platform. This isn't a Biden-specific platform. This isn't a centrist-specific platform. Biden's platform that he ran on is one of the furthest left since FDR.
I'm sorry, the 2016 election was Clinton, not Biden.
No, I said the 2016 election. I'm talking about when Pence was.
Oh, okay.
Picked.
I thought you were. Okay,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like,
That
yeah, it was Hillary.
Pence was picked because he
I was
was. Yeah, Pence was
oh,
picked
yeah,
because
it was
he did the most egregious thing of 2015 and 2016.
Okay,
That's why
so
he got
Jen,
picked
this
for
is now
Republican VP.
a bit of background that you didn't have. I don't know if you had on Bill, but Bill is currently an aspiraling political candidate himself, so he's been involved in this a little bit too.
We should
himself.
talk.
I am a politician. Yes.
We should talk.
Definitely. But the thing about the Biden administration is we are not looking at just people from the old guard, but we also have this influence from the Bernie Sanders side because he was the runner-up. And in the committee, we came together and put a coalition together. And Biden's whole platform is coalition between everybody from the far left all the way into the Republicans.
Is it?
It is. It really is. Yes, it's the big tent strategy.
I don't feel that way.
I mean, and it's not going to feel that way for a lot of people until we see results. And honestly, I want to see the results too. I'm going to be skeptical until I see something.
But what I'm saying is based on Biden's policies, based on what Biden has promised, based on what Biden has actively campaigned for, based on Biden's picks, I don't see this as a huge reach out to the left aisle.
They blamed us for Biden.
The DNC is actually blaming the left now to the point that AOC is thinking of quitting politics.
I think
Biden is taking one or two left people to satisfy and say, see, I'm a coalition builder, and has absolutely zero fucking motivation. I think Kamala Harris has absolutely zero motivation, because if she does have motivation to turn around, especially to reform that crime bill, she now turns into somebody who can be prosecuted herself. And she is not going to sit there and put her own ass on the line for that.
The 1994 crime bill, and most people have admitted, was a mistake. They were all
It absolutely was a mistake. I have not seen anything solid out of the Biden camp except for the legalization of weed and the expungement of weed records. I have not seen anything solid out of the Biden camp, nor have I seen anything solid outside of Kamala Harris, especially considering her past record, to sit there and not only atone for the bullshit that she's pulled, especially with the innocent men in fucking jail, but do anything that's going to put her record on the line and back anything that's going to put her record on the line to make her seem fallible, to make her seem that she made bad choices, and damn sure not going to lead anything to her being fucking prosecuted.
Okay, Jen, take a deep breath. I'm going to give you each 2 minutes, and then we need to go to shill because we are 10 minutes over the usual length of our show.
I do want to respond to one thing in chat.
But I would like Freya's question asked. What do you mean by far left?
That is, the far left in America is the kind of left in Europe. So I'm talking about the democratic socialists.
No, I don't think you understand that the far left in America, far left politicians are what are considered centrist in Europe. Far left voters are far left voters.
Okay, there are the cray-cray people that want to murder everybody on the other side.
Who are the cray-cray people?
Okay, Bill, again, you're talking to an actual communist right now. The co-host of the show.
But who are the cray-cray people? You're sitting here saying that Biden is reaching across the aisle to the far left, when he absolutely is not. Biden is reaching across the fucking wine idol to the fucking slightly more liberal fucking centrist. When it comes down to the actual far left voters and constituents in this country, Biden is not reaching across that far.
Jen, I understand completely what you're getting at. And I have two responses to this. First of all, we've only seen a few of Biden's picks so far, and I understand that a lot of these are more establishment Democrat types. But the other thing that we're looking at is we have to have a national unity platform and not just a left unity platform.
You can't sit here and argue and say national unity when the largest voter bloc in this country is not being represented. You cannot sit here and feed me this political unity bullshit that I've been fed for 20 fucking years when you have a gigantic fucking voting bloc of the next generation not being spoken for. You can't give me that bullshit democratic fucking centrist neoliberal crap anymore.
Jen, breath, calm, goose rabah, breathe.
I love
you, but breathe.
And I'm sorry
Me
to say this,
too, but
the Democratic Party doesn't want unity with the right. The Democratic Party wants unity with the center. They don't give a fuck what the right is doing. As long as they sit there and funnel their fucking money, they don't give a shit. There is
honestly,
not going to be this kumbaya unity fucking bullshit that I've heard from
Jen,
the goddamn DNC this entire fucking election. It's not going to happen.
Jen, you've ranted for a sec. Let him respond.
Sorry,
Please.
God.
So the thing right now is to try, I mean, and I get it. I have plenty of concerns on the left side too that I know aren't going to be addressed this cycle, maybe not next cycle. It's going to take time, but it takes time for progress to happen. But right now, we're trying to fix the issue of political segregation that we've been pushed into over the last 4 years. The Republican states are good, the Democrat states are bad. Right now, we need to work on quit demonizing the other side. Let's work together, compromise like, government should. Like, in the parliamentary system, you have multiple groups that come together and compromise on something that everybody can agree on and push out instead of my way or the highway.
Bill, do you mind, Jen, Bill, I think that this conversation needs to happen on another show. I think this is a great topic that we can talk about, like whether or not political unity is even possible in the modern day, because I think all three of us have very different perspectives on this, and I'm sitting here.
I'm just going to end that with this one thing.
Okay.
I am not going to sit here. Our party should never sit here with a fucking side that turns around and says we deserve to die, we deserve our rights to be stripped away, and we deserve a less fucking standard of living than anybody but them. There is no compromise on that. So all of this unity, reach across the aisle, no, we have to make compromise. There is no compromise in that. And the last 4 years has left zero room for compromise with this party. None.
I understand.
With the Republican Party.
And can I have my couple of seconds too?
All right, you can have let's say about 1 minute to finish, and then Jen and I need to chill because we are 15 minutes over time. We can talk about whether or not, guys, if you're watching this on the playback, first off, thank you, congratulations for making it through a 2-hour playback. For the 38 of you, most of which have been here through the entire show, thank you guys also for sticking through it and for your incredible support. We can have a conversation afterwards between the three of us and also potentially in the comment section about talking about whether or not inter-party unity is even possible in the modern day and what all of the things that led up to the polarization. I would actually like to bring Bill back. Yeah, I would. Honestly, I would love to bring Bill back for that as well.
Me
if
too.
we are going to do that.
I mean,
if y'all in the chat are interested,
fun.
Leave a comment after the stream ends, and we will consider doing that. And we'll schedule it for sometime in the future. Obviously, not next week. Jen and I already have a topic for next week, and we're going to announce that at the end of the show. Yes, Bill, you can finish, but I wanted to state I don't want this debate to go on much longer, and you guys are getting heated already. I think this is a conversation that can be had later.
This is two politicians talking. This is Senate floor shit right now.
Well, and I'm going to be
my cool.
Well, and I'm going to be sitting here in the middle going, we're going to have this discussion. Let's go ahead and talk about it from a minority perspective, because I'm sitting here with lived experience of what the result of this is.
Oh, no, me and Bill are just having a Senate floor discussion right now. That's
exactly, yeah.
And this is why I'm calling a close to the discussion so that we can start it up for, at the next meeting.
Exactly.
Fire in the chat. Thank you, guys. Hail for the Greek phalanx.
Speaking of chat, I do see, we don't have time. The world is on fire. And
Bill, we're not going to continue to address this because this will turn into a 3-hour show.
This is, you've got 1 minute to close your discussion with Jen and and we're tabling the rest of it for an actual topic. Is party unity possible? Pending a date when we can negotiate.
Got it. Okay. You can't do everything at once. It takes progress in increments because you have to bring everybody around in a coalition, because if everybody's disagreeing with each other, it's just going to create more issues. And that's what we've seen over the last 4 years. I believe that if we can get more people together in one place to agree, we can start moving forward from there. And that's what I've seen so far from Biden's
But does that leave room for the eradication?
Jen,
I know.
He's got 20 more seconds. Let him finish.
Real quick question: does that leave room for the eradication of those that want to be extreme and want to be?
Well, it depends on how you define extreme.
People shouldn't get married and people shouldn't be able to immigrate to our country. eradication.
That's outside of the whole thing. We're talking about this part, not these parts.
But it is part of that part because you have actual politicians. Does this allow for the
Jen.
eradication of this end of the far right left to be gone from politics?
We're trying, progress is progress. So progress
Sorry,
is always
the far
moving
right extreme,
further
far right
from
left.
the far right extreme.
Okay,
We're
Jen,
always
can I try to
moving away
rephrase
from
what
that.
can I try to rephrase what you're stating in something that might be a little more concise, and let me know if I'm getting this wrong?
Sure.
The Overton window has shifted extremely far to the right. Does compromise include the far left, or are you only excluding those who are calling for things like genocide?
The people that are calling for genocide obviously are absolutely completely outside of any bubble that negotiation can be done.
We're
in.
not even talking about
people-
direct genocide. We're talking about policies that are put in place that are directly affecting minority communities, women.
I understand, because
Things like that.
systemic racism. That's, anybody who wants to continue systemic racism does need to be pushed out. But the people that are just there because they have an R next to their name so they get elected, Joe Biden has this experience with the Senate for, decades.
I'm aware of
and
Biden.
He's able to negotiate with both sides, get a
But
compromise.
I think you missed my question, though, because I was talking about how far the Overton
did.
window has moved to the right. I was asking, are the people on the far left, which are not calling for these sorts of things, most of what we're calling for are things like universal health care, a workers' bill of rights,
Stop
union
shooting
rights,
people in the fucking street and making it a federal fucking hate crime.
pretend like complete restructuring of police, like nationally,
So actually, yes, those are some things that are in the platform that we're looking at. So Biden is going to have a commission on judicial.
Hold on. I've worked with the Democratic platform and the DNC for 25 years. This is something that the DNC has been looking at and looking into and considering for longer than I've been working with them.
Right, but when Obama was the president, we weren't talking about a judicial reform.
Yes, we were.
Committee.
Yes, we absolutely were. We have been talking about judicial reform in the Democratic Party since Clinton. We have been talking about that since then. So when does it come time for the DNC to either shit or get off the fucking pot?
Jen, I'm going to call that your closing question.
Really, it's now. This is the proving point. I'm going to put my trust in Joe Biden because so far, what I've seen from the DNC completely bringing in the left, bringing in healthcare for all with a private option, these are compromises. And I think that the more we can bring these further left ideas in and mix them in with what's normal, people will start to notice that the further left ideas are better and will continue moving forward. But it really is a wait and see thing. I understand. I get it.
What the chat is noting is that we don't have the time to wait and see anymore. We have been waiting and seeing for 25 years.
Anything that happens after January 21st is going to be miles better than what we've seen over the last 4 years. So
even if it's a Band-Aid, tabling the discussion, calling it here.
Okay.
We're at a place of agreement for a moment.
Last statement, just because he's not smacking you doesn't mean he's not abusing you.
This is true. Okay, so we're going to close here. I've done my best not to express most of my opinions here because I'm just trying to, you guys got heated. I'm trying to kind of mediate for a second. We need to show and close.
Oh, no, I'm not. This is nothing personal. This is absolutely nothing personal.
Okay,
I like this. I like you, Jen.
If you're shouting in your New York accent, you're heated whether it's personal or not. Just saying.
Fair.
No, we're
good. It does not mean that you're mad at him. It means you're mad.
Yeah. And it's okay to get worked up over this stuff because this is stuff that we care about.
Yeah, and it is okay to get worked up about it.
You're getting a little politician-y here right now.
You are. But
sorry, that's what I am.
What I'm saying is, I don't want it to go on for another hour because I want to close the show out, both for rewatchability and also because, I've got a few things that I need to get done as well.
I need to record my episode for this week.
Yes, and so does Jen. So, Bill, I know that you don't have a lot in the way of social media yet. You're working on that, but would you like to kind of talk about anywhere that you're going to be showing up sometime soon? I will talk about the thing that we talked about for tomorrow during my show portion, so you don't have to mention that because that's kind of an up in the air thing anyhow.
Okay. I was thinking about bringing my Twitter back. I deleted it a few years ago because I got sick of all the nonsense. I
Stay off.
deleted
It's a fucking
Facebook.
dumpster fire. Stay the fuck off.
Exactly.
Goddamn,
It's all
just
dumpster
stay
fire.
away. Stay away.
At some point, after I've got enough people that think I'm cool enough, I might start some kind of a YouTube situation, which I'll coordinate with Suris to kind of help me get off the ground with that. But at this point, I don't have any major social media at this point, except y'all can. I'd say y'all
That's
can
how
hit
you
me
get
up,
people
but...
to think you're cool, is that you have to shit post on social media. That's
By the way, I'm also going to warn both of you that when this show happens in the future, you're going to be dealing with a communist Native American, like arguing against.
oh
both
yeah,
of you,
like
because
you
Jen
have
and I
a
disagree
communist.
on a.
You have a
Jen and I
communist
disagree on
Native
some
American and then a social democrat who's been in
Yeah.
politics for.
I would call
Shit,
myself
too
either a
fucking
social
long.
democrat or a
Damn.
democratic socialist.
Yeah.
One of the two. I mean, that's kind of where I stand too.
Yeah, and I've been in politics longer than I will care
I
to
still don't
admit.
believe you're that old.
Oh, I am. Oh, I am. Like,
Oh.
Stop
Okay, if you say
don't
so.
politeness to a lady, man. Didn't you learn anything in the South? Like stop reminding Jen.
I am.
I'm serious.
You,
But
you probably were not walking when I started getting involved in
I was
politics.
1995 when I was born. So
Yeah,
if enough
right.
people decide that they like me and they like what I'm talking about, they think that I'm a decent source of opinions, information, I will start a YouTube channel, and with a more professional setup. I just don't know how much of a audience.
Bill, you've already been popular with two people. What I'm going to tell you is that it's a climb, even if you have help from popular people. Suris and Jen and several other friends, Ocean. A lot of people helped me, and I still am at 1,400 subs. 6 months in.
Yeah, I'm
it's
at
a climb.
A year.
Yeah,
I would expect 5 at the most on mine.
I kind of also partially had a following because there's a whole history, but I'm not going to go into it. My point is that if you start one, the point is having one. You can send people there when you go onto channels. Building your clout now isn't going to help near as much as having a place to send them when you come to places like this.
So I decided to become a host at one of the largest atheist communities, and then turned around and told the atheist community how fucking shitty they were. Then pissed off a bunch of white supremacists. So that's how I got my sub.
This is part of the reason why we're now the coalition instead of the bridge.
I don't think I'm cute enough to be
it's all these
on YouTube and stuff.
All
yeah, because I
All
don't have.
Okay,
these.
Bill, go watch my videos.
I can contour you. I can do that.
But seriously, I don't feel attractive enough to even get a YouTube following. You have to be pretty or cute, and I'm just
Okay, again.
Have you seen
I'm
the
going to
atheist
remind you that I
community
haven't
of men? Have you seen the atheist community?
Oh yeah,
of men?
they're
Are we talking about the fat neck beards or the?
Okay, so what I'm going to say is that looks don't really matter near as much as intellect for dudes. Jen and I have a much harder time in that respect.
Okay.
Just look.
Literally. Anyway, that's completely beside the point. Do you have any future appearances that you would like to shill on a different channel?
That was adorable, STFU. Oh, that made me so happy. Thank you.
I have an incredibly supportive community.
Fucking
Look,
Jordan Peterson is popular. I mean,
my
have you seen him this weekend?
My YouTube channel is under Bill Wood 09, and that's my username on most stuff is Bill Wood 09. I don't have any videos posted, but you can follow me at Bill Wood 09, and I'll start posting stuff. And you can message me if you think there are any topics you want me to cover. I don't mind. I can make videos. I can talk to a camera forever.
All right, you heard it here, folks. The coalition were the ones that unleashed this upon the world. You can blame us later.
It's all your fault. When I'm president of the United States, blame those two.
Oh, you're gonna have to beat me out first, and I'm a tough guy.
We'll be primary opponents.
Jen, you want to talk about what you've got coming on?
So I know I said Friday, but I'm probably not recording it.
That's true, Jen. I worked in an elementary school for a little bit, and I actually did get a little puffy up here, but once I saw that.
I know I said my video would be released Friday, but I'm thinking that's going to be Saturday now because I'm not recording it tonight. It's too late. But who's hitting me?
Okay, let's face it. You let all of your rant energy out during that debate, and you just want to go chill now.
I really want to just wash my face and go sit and play Assassin's Creed for the next 3 hours. That's really what I want to do right now. But that's going to be on toxic femininity. Since I did toxic masculinity last week, this week is going to be toxic femininity. I just don't want to release on a Thursday because it's Thanksgiving.
Tell me that you're going to.
I'm sorry.
From r/nice
Hold on.
girls.
Need to correct myself. It's not Thanksgiving. It's thank you for being.
Mm-hmm.
That's thank you for being. That's thank you for you. Thank you for being. That's what we celebrate in my house.
Thank you for being a friend.
Also, we also have traded it off as the fall harvest celebration here as well, because at least down here, November is around the time that you start like curing the tobacco plants and like really start ripping up your crops down here in the south. So we do
the squash parade.
All the cotton just got ripped out of the ground.
It literally smells like my neighborhood's on fire with the fucking tobacco curing.
All I see is cotton.
Yeah, you see pot and I see tobacco. Look at that. Florida and fucking Tennessee, y'all. We got this.
Right?
We just want to fuck up the rest of the country. So yeah, here we do a thank you for being in a fall harvest dinner here. Meanwhile, everything's frozen from Walmart. Go figure. That's going to be on toxic femininity. Yeah, it'll either be Saturday or Sunday, depending.
Do you have an interview coming up this week, or you take the week off?
Not this Friday. Next Friday I have an interview, and we're going to be talking about the fall and decline of the current political structure in the United States with James.
So a good follow-up to this one.
Mm-hmm. With James O'Neill.
So, for those of you who are on
you guys
get
to really hear me yell about how much I hate the two-party system.
Two things: ranked choice voting, freaking percentage vote, proportional representation.
Yes, ranked choice voting and parliamentary, where we have multiple parties that coalesce.
That's
what proportional representation is. 1% of the vote equals 1% of the seats.
The one thing that we didn't take from fucking England, the one goddamn fucking thing that we didn't do, parliamentary style rule. No, we took everything else from the fucking empire.
But no, we could do parliamentary.
So, for my channel, for those of you who have been following the Discord, I started and finished, or at least thought I had finished, the Heracles versus Hercules script. However, I realized that because of Thanksgiving, because I normally traditionally release my videos at 6 PST on Thursdays, I decided against that this week, just because I know that a bunch of y'all are going to be with your families, and it's just going to be a clusterfuck. And that video deserves the time that it needs in the algorithm, so I'm going to be doing that next week. What I'm going to be doing instead is that at an undefined time, it's going to be sometime around when the bridge usually is, or when the coalition usually is, but probably a little bit later, because I have, my own harvest festival that we're going to be cooking, and I, of course, being the, female person in this house, I'm going to be doing most of that.
And none of y'all get sick. Stay away from large gatherings.
Once that is done, for those of you who can, break away from your families for a brief period of time and hide in the corner, or for those of you who don't have anywhere to go, I'm going to be doing a F Thanksgiving signed a person with native heritage stream, where I'm going to be talking about the Wampanoag, and I'm going to be talking about the European slave trade of natives. I'm going to be talking about the Thanksgiving feast that was thrown after a particular mayor decided to slaughter an entire village for no particular reason whatsoever, apart from the fact that they existed and got in the way. I'm going to be talking about the way that the Europeans deceived land trade and why Native Americans were effectively communist, but nobody talks about it because it wasn't a white guy who wrote a book. So I'm going to be talking about a lot of angry, ranty, and for those of you who enjoyed the Platonism, wine-fueled rage regarding this holiday, because as a Native American, fuck Thanksgiving. So if y'all want to be here for that, Bill might join me if he happens to be up and around at the time he offered. I'm going to be saying this real quick too.
I'm off all day.
If I see y'all traveling out here with no masks, on planes, talking about I'm gonna go see my 25 member fucking family reunion, I'm going to shame the fuck out of you. I am calling you a fucking plague rat. I am going to shame the fuck out of you if you decide to turn around and act like a fucking plague rat. I will fucking call you the Walmart version of Donatello. You fucking scum-sucking little virus fucking plague rat. I will shame the fuck out of you. Stay the fuck
Wear
home.
your masks. Don't get in large groups, even if it's your family. That doesn't mean they're not sick. Stay away from large groups.
Sharing DNA does not mean it makes you immune from a fucking virus from the
You're
other
not
fucking
immune.
person.
Nobody's immune. COVID doesn't care.
Trust me, I got a
Please
fucking
be
kid.
careful.
You know how much shit he gives me? Well, when he's out in school. I will shame the fuck out of you publicly. I will get on fucking Twitter and literally want you to question your fucking existence to breathe when I am done
Seriously.
with you.
Well, and
I
on the
am
Because you don't
subject of
deserve to
another
breathe,
Jen
and you won't
rant,
be able
her
to
shaming
anyway.
you is not cancel culture. Just saying.
Yeah, fuck off.
Yeah.
I am just
It's not
fucking
cancel
tired of
culture.
being in this goddamn
So,
house.
Jen, do you
I will
want-
shame you.
Jen, do you want to announce next Monday's topic as well?
What is next Monday's topic?
We talked about it over text.
I'm sorry, I got lost in a rant. God damn it. Now my
Biden's healthcare plan.
Yes, Biden's healthcare plan.
So we're going to be talking about the strengths and weaknesses of it, and Jen and I might actually get into our own heated debate because we actually differ on single payer option versus single payer universal plus private.
Public option with public option
Yeah.
with
Basically,
private
a public option and a private option kind of
versus
thing.
That's what I'm
versus
for.
completely
That's what I'm
universal. Whereas I'm more for completely universal healthcare because I've watched how the private option has failed in other countries, and
Exactly.
what kind of like hierarchy it's created. So Jen and I are probably going to get into a bit of a debate on that one, but we're going to start by what we agree with as far as, this is what works and what doesn't within Biden's plan. And I agree with Jen that it's most likely the plan that could pass for universal health care. I just disagree that it is the best plan. And we'll talk a little bit about our reasons for that later in the stream.
I'm going to talk about why, as for right now, this is the best plan to lead us into full universal coverage.
And I've got
and I
plenty
agree
on
with
that
you
too,
on
if
that.
y'all want me back.
I am for
It's
the
gonna
public
be-
option. However, I don't think we have enough regulations on the medical industry and the medical care to enact a safe public option at this point.
Exactly,
Well,
yeah.
and I agree with you on that. So we might end up agreeing more than we disagreed toward
We
the
probably
end.
do. We probably fucking do.
Yeah, because
Seriously,
I
isn't it?
get in trouble in far left circles because I am a progressivist a lot of the time. I tend to be far more concerned when it comes to pragmatic. Like, let's try to use the system for as long as we can until the system utterly
that's where
fails.
I get in trouble with the left circles too.
It's just that we have to progress. We can't go straight to a public-only option. But this is a conversation for later.
So
But
yeah,
I am happy to join that conversation if y'all have me.
we could potentially have you on in the future. However, Jen and I do solo shows, and it is an important part of our show. So that is going to be our solo show next week.
Okay.
We've been talking about this topic for a while because I have a personal rant having to do with private healthcare and why I fucking hate it. And we're going to be opening the show with that rant. And for once, Jen's going to be the one controlling the conversation a little bit because I'm fucking mad.
I have personal experience about how socialized medicine saved me.
Yep, and I have personal experience for how private healthcare is currently fucking me over, and I have some of the best insurance that you can get from a company in the country. So we're going to be talking a lot about that next week. We are half an hour over time.
Yeah.
Thank y'all, all 37 of you that stuck through this whole fucking show.
Stuck through me
You
just
guys
fucking
are-
screaming at people. Holy
You guys are
shit.
incredible. Thank you guys all also for your votes. As I said, we counted everyone, and you even got an extended voting time. So we are officially the coalition. I'm just waiting on Gaelic Knox to get me the logo with the updated name.
Yeah,
So
Gaelic.
they were here earlier.
I know, if they're still here, I'm just being shitty.
Seriously. Thank y'all for sticking around. I mean, just like when I was on Suris's channel, y'all stuck around. I'm surprised.
You guys are incredible. For those of you who are newer and you are not a part of our Discord already, link is in the description below. Link is also in the description below to Jen's channel, The Wind Down. And once Bill gets videos on his channel, if we have him back on again, his link will end up in the description of this one on the playback and on anything else we have him in. Links are also available if you want to torture yourself to both Jen and my Twitter. We get into political fights all the freaking
really
time.
Quiet lately.
Even sometimes with each other. We got into an argument the other day about the use of the term endemic, and it was very entertaining.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just like, no, and she's like, wait, and everyone's like, oh shit.
So if any of y'all want to go
we
ahead
love
and
each other, we promise.
follow me. Like I said, my handle is Billwood09. That's on YouTube. That's on just about everything. You can preemptively follow me because I'm going to start putting stuff up soon. Now that I've been doing these bits on people's shows for a while, I'm going to start doing my own stuff too. So if you want to preemptively follow me, Billwood09.
And reminder, assignment for the end of the video, because we started doing this as of the last one. We're actually as of 2 videos ago when we had the list, which thank you to all of you guys who actually went and looked up people off of the BLM list that we provided. There was a lot of really heartbreaking stories in the comments, but some people who didn't get a lot of news coverage outside of local actually got their stories told, and that was incredible. Assignment for this week is Let us know in the comments section which of the empires we talked about that you think has the most relation to what's going on in the US right now. And if you can, name a policy that is similar to something that happened that directly related to the fall of that empire.
Here's some extra credit if you guys want to go through that. Look at all the different empires and figure out who copied who.
Yeah, see if you can trace the lineage.
I like that
Short
one.
answer, America does not owe near as much of its lineage to Rome as you think it does. There's actually quite a lot from a different particular
much in
confederacy
between, yeah.
that most people don't even know existed. So for those of you who are curious, if you want some bonus, if you want a bonus point, see if you can also find who else America modeled its governance after, and it wasn't just Rome. Zachary Prosser found this channel through Suris and Ocean. Love you both. Take some cash. Thank you so much. $5
thank you,
super chat to
Zachary.
close the night. So, thank you guys again for sticking through this. It was a long show. Hopefully people can enjoy it on the playback. Google's probably going to apocalypse the hell out of this if it does get monetized. If it does, I will try to fix it. I'm sorry if there's ads
That's why I don't do midstream ads, because it's just like...
Except it's like 50. It was like 15 or 20 of them on my last one, and it was infuriating, and I had to go fix it.
That's
I
why
will do my best to
only
fix it as soon as
the
it's done
first-
processing.
Yeah, that's why I only do at the
Google
beginning.
needs to calm down.
Yeah, Google was extremely excited in my last two streams. So I'm gonna go in and fix it tomorrow morning, but if you watch it before then, I'm sorry if it does somehow manage to remain monetized, despite the fact that we said every trigger word that should piss off dear Susan.
We tried.
Yeah, we tried. So thank you again for sticking through it, and remember, we built the coalition, now let's fight. We're stronger together.